Sorry, that's just anti-trans.
Yeah, I'll do, this is King Critical against Vaush. We've got a bit of vintage Vaush, as you can see from the ponytail and the ear. This is, yeah, so we've got King Critical versus Vaush debate. This was 4 years ago. Can get an exact, June 25th, 2020. There we go. I like gender, fuck me, I'm gonna get his wrong. I'm gonna get his name wrong every time. I like King Critical in general. I don't always agree with him, but I think he's a much better, like, in terms of like gender critical, which is more or less what Mr. Gull was espousing there. I think he's a much better, you know, he's better at having these kind of conversations and putting the ideas across, just because he doesn't seem like as much of a dick, I think, if anything. But yeah, let's see what happens. Watching some Vaush. Is this? No, it's not my first time watching Vaush. Okay, never mind. Stop rambling.
Awesome. Great. Hi.
Howdy.
KC is the British guy, if you don't know, and Vaush is this man.
I just need to... Awesome. Great. Hi.
Howdy.
Okay, well, good to see you again. Always welcome. See you again soon.
I just need to... Yeah, good to talk to you.
Yeah, I love talking to
How are
people.
you?
I'm doing great. All right, you should probably be careful with your niceties now, because historically my conversations with people of your political disposition don't tend to go very well.
Can you see me, by the way? I'm just wondering. I turned it on instinctively, but
The equine enthusiast. Yeah, polite reminder, this is a lolly enjoyer, a lolicon.
yeah.
I can see you. Do you want me to
Not that I'm poisoning the well or whatever. I really don't like Vaush though.
throw you up on stream?
Also a queen lollifier. Oh god. Jeez, I don't want to think about that.
I don't mind. Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's fine.
I'll do that then.
All right, cool.
All right. So hit me up. I have not yet had the time to watch your video. Give me your criticisms. I'm ready.
Yeah, he doesn't watch people's content. He just jumps straight into... This is the thing. I used to like Vaush around this time. I never saw this. I liked Vaush in around 2020. But then I kind of, after that, I started kind of changing and being like, I think this guy's a bit of a fucking idiot, actually.
Oh, no. Yeah, I see. You would want me to give you my criticism. Unfortunately, the video I made about you it's not very useful. It's not very kind of conducive to good discussion, mostly because your video was about...
Does King Critical remind me slightly of pre-trans ContraPoints? I'm not sure. The eyebrows are very different, though.
J.K. Rowling.
Maybe it's just the nose. I think it's the kind of long pointed nose that's making me think of that. I don't know.
And I don't, thoroughly endorse J.K. Rowling. My bigger interest is in the wider idea. And like more specifically, the reason why I would agree with someone like J.K. Rowling is because I think, what is it that you think queer theory, which is, say, the idea that gender is determined 100% by self-identity, what does that idea explain or make clearer about gender and about kind of feminist discourse? How
I wonder if he'll even answer or will just complain about the question and want to redefine everything. Let's see.
How does that help have a more robust feminist?
Oh, he did a response to King Critical a couple of years ago as well. Okay. Casey did pretty terribly in this one. He just ends up on the defensive the whole time. I think that's kind of how Vaush works. Yeah. I mean, we saw another trans debate earlier.
Discourse.
I'm not sure if it's about having a more robust discourse as it is about mitigating harm and most accurately identifying the way in
mitigating harm. So like whatever causes the least harm is, I don't know. Yeah, you gotta kind of pin these kind of people down, but like, I don't know, Vaush is like slippery as fuck.
which people engage with gender.
Okay, see, that's interesting. I thought you might...
That's not my chair, by the way.
I say that. See, for me, that's not very helpful because it's basically saying that it's a very utilitarian way of looking at it.
Yeah, like why would you prioritize whatever causes the least harm? Like, would you only tell good news in the news for that reason? Because it might be upsetting to some people? I don't know. Where do you draw the line there?
Things to say, like, the reason why we should believe a certain thing or affirm a certain truth is because it's going to make people happier. And I think that could easily, you would surely think, lead to...
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
To all sorts of potential issues down the line.
I don't think
where
so.
somebody can just say, "Oh, that doesn't." But
It's a weird precedent to set for sure. There's probably is things where, like, I don't know, what can I think of where like the reality is more harmful than the lie? But like, fuck, I don't know. I need to think about that one more.
see, for me,
Well, the thing is, and you have to remember, there is no inherent truth of gender. We didn't discover gender
What even is gender? Like, I don't know.
somewhere in a forest. It's a social construct. It is what we make of it. So in the process of reshaping it to better suit human need,
Is a social construct, is it true that it is what we make of it? Because these things are passed down and we continue to accept them. Like, you get taught things that are social constructs and you still take them in anyway, even though it's just something that's been passed down. I don't know what Vaush is saying here.
we're doing what social constructs are meant to do, to serve human need. There's not some...
Is that true? Is that true? Vaush is at a point reputationally where anything he touches turns to shit. Have you seen the kind of people that he's hanging out with now? Like, you thought his old cabal of like Tipster and Keffels and Xanderhau and Demon Mama and shit was bad? Like, nowadays it's like Nominal Naomi, Alec Gunter, like the absolute barrel scrapings at the very bottom of the barrel is like who he's talking to now. And the funniest part is he never used to collab with like any of the other people that he used to hang out with. So they must feel like so neglected. You know, he is the worst fucking father on YouTube for definite.
inherent truth.
Listen, if you haven't seen it, look up Progressive Victory. I know Queeman did a react to it. They did this weird like version of Jubilee where people ran into different lanes on this field, like, you know, lanes that you'd get on like a racing, athletics racing thing. And their mics kept cutting out and being replaced with like the handheld mic and stuff. So sometimes there'd just be like fucking ridiculous, ridiculous like audio in the background. And yeah, then you just hear about what Nominal Naomi and some other trans person who's a moron, and then Vaush, and then Alec Gunter, and then someone else thinks, and why they're like, I partially agree with this, or nah, I disagree with that, and all this shit. It was pretty terrible. They're working like, oh, and there was the fuck, what was the other thing? I know I'm like rambling. The thing they did for not LeVar Burton, Lamar something. What was he called? What's that? Jamal Bowman. Fuck yeah, Jamal Bowman. They did a canvassing thing for Jamal Bowman, and they were set up in some building or other, and they had like Vaush on there, like interviewing all the different like shitty streamers that are now part of Progressive Victory. So we sat there across, you know, Miss Trilk, and they talked about how mean people are to her on the internet. Him and Alec Gunter, I think I reacted to that on my channel just because seeing the two of them in the same room is funny to me. They talked about fucking nothing. Yeah, it was really cringe. I do recommend looking it up though. Like there was some great like reactions, and I did a little bit myself. Casey likely is a tactile soft Virgo. I'm a Cancer. Is that like, do I come across as one? I'm not sure.
Value we have to, you know, respect or dig up.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. So in other words, I would disagree on your definition of what, or your assessment of what a social construct should do. I don't think a social construct is there to to help humans, to make things nice for humans. I think as construct is there to better facilitate, and sometimes I do think it's there to help. I think it's there to better facilitate dialogue.
Yeah, they're usually just like describing words or something, or I don't know. I always used to think that gender was like the socially constructed parts of sex, and to an extent how other people perceive it in you, even if that's not what you are in terms of your sex. But then I don't know. Everyone's complicated this shit so fucking much. I don't know anymore.
Better facilitate understanding the world, and you know, I don't think it's helpful to take an idea and that is very useful, that is a theory or an understanding of a concept, and say, well, we need to change that in order to make other people happier.
Yeah, but like, why would? Okay, hold on. So let's back up in this. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
yeah.
Let's back up. It's been 3 minutes. It's a very squishy concept, yes. And I guess that's what a lot of these people kind of ride on, because they can call it whatever they want and they can play all kinds of silly buggers with the meaning and the definition and how it works and literally everything else.
Understanding of what? Gender is,
Right.
as we both agree, a social construct. There's no fundamental truth to understand. It is only a system that we have devised to explain patterns in our world. The extent to which we understand it is contingent upon its perceived existence. If to us, gender is nothing more than a system of self-identification, then if we understand it to be that, our understanding...
So is he saying we can just rejig all the social constructs and make them into what I think they should be? Because I just don't think it works that way. I mean, like I said, aren't social constructs like cultural, like passed down things? Like, I guess they change over time because our ethics and our beliefs and shit change over time to where the majority is something else here and there. But like, I don't know. It's kind of, the pedantry is beginning like very quickly.
is as significant as any level of understanding could be of a more essentialist view of gender.
Right, yeah, okay. I go saying...
Here's the thing. We've been trying the gender neutral shit for a long time and it's not sticking. Maybe there is an extent to which we just naturally see each other as sexes and not just genders. Contingent. Yeah, I thought it was contingent myself. I don't know. I always have this theory of people like this, like they'll just pronounce certain words weirdly just to be different. I can't prove that, obviously, and I don't, I'm not slandering you, vaush, if you're listening, which you definitely aren't. But like, I don't know. Cancer very much pivots around care, protection, above all, especially their chosen family. Very hardy, adaptive, tough. You've adapted your tough disposition. What's all of this? Okay, I agree with that. I try and be as tough as I can. It's not always easy, but, as I've gotten older, it's gotten a lot easier.
But the thing is, I would say it is, and I understand what you're saying, that basically it doesn't really exist.
I support breast cancer.
It's something made up. But I would say that we made it up, and it's really useful for looking at things, most particularly, especially if you're a progressive, I think, looking at the oppression of women and basically understanding feminism. And I would say that...
Was he just picking his teeth?
Useful for looking at things, most particularly, especially if you're a progressive, I think, looking at
he's just scratching.
The oppression of women.
The old scratch and flick, anyway.
And basically understanding feminism. And I would say that the minute that you start saying, well, actually, I, right now, could self-identify as a woman, and suddenly I become the subject of feminism, patriarchy becomes something...
Here's the thing I'm kind of thinking about. Like, you could technically redefine a social construct in your own mind, but like, how do you get other people to agree with your definition, That
affects me as a woman, that feminism should focus on my rights as a woman. I think at that point, you've then taken away the utility of that construct.
But this...
Yeah, vaush is looking very, he's really concentrating hard. He's realizing this is, yeah.
Deconstructing patriarchy.
This is the lie that all TERFs propagate. The idea that...
Oh, God. Hang on. No, I need to get it again, because he's suddenly jumped into the talking points,
Feminism, patriarchy
is Casey investigating the lolly? Is that what's going on here?
Becomes something that affects me as a woman. That feminism should focus on my rights as a woman. I think at that point, you've then taken away the utility of that construct.
But this is
deconstructing patriarchy.
This is the lie that all TERFs propagate. The idea that the self-identification
kind of shoots back there.
Theory of gender in any way destroys our ability to understand power relations or meaning of gender.
God, it's so hard not to listen to this man fucking without zoning out,
In any way TERFs propagate. The idea that the self-identification theory of gender in any way destroys our ability to understand power relations or meaningfully address the experience that assigned female at birth people go through. I've interacted with a lot of...
I don't even know. I don't even fucking know.
Trans people in my life. I mean, a lot. I have never met any of them who believe that a cis and a trans person, or cis and a trans woman or man, are identical in every way.
I would surely hope that you wouldn't make this argument in 2024, because the mind reject lies. I don't want to lean on that, but yeah. Like, what am I trying to say? I had something. Fuck, hang on, let me just get it one more time.
That a cis and a trans person, or cis and a trans woman or man.
Yeah, we literally do talk about it like it's the same. Trans people will literally talk about how, like, the weird thing is he started off by saying, this is the TERF lie, and is now doing the fucking TRA lie.
Are identical in every way, or
people do think this. This is normal. This is normal within trans circles. It's not normal in a factual sense because it's batshit, but that's what people think. People will go around saying that they were born in the wrong body, like not as a metaphor. You know, I used to understand things like born in the wrong body and like identity to be kind of metaphorical, and that's kind of how I use that kind of thing. But now it's like my male body is my condition because I'm supposed to be a female and I'm a male. So my whole body is a condition that I have, which is utterly crazy. Yeah, Vaush is like something else. I used to like this guy.
that the experiences of a cis woman in youth are the same as a trans woman's youth. I have never met a person like that.
Yeah, I guess people have to like fit things into boxes to make sense of them. And with many people, there can only be two options because their mind cannot conceive of more, so...
And I have never been in a trans space and not been able to talk about the difference in these experiences. The idea...
Really? I don't know if I believe this is even true, by the way.
idea that we're sanding over distinctions is just not the case. I've never seen this happen.
Sanding over distinctions. Would calling sex bimodal instead of binary, would that be sanding over distinctions? Because it feels like it is.
But people like J.K. Rowling will always make this implication, or that outright statement, the idea that we are harming cisgender women, or real women, as some of them might say, by obfuscating the difference.
I did find the Vaush King critical debate. I covered up cheese.
Between trans and cis people, which is, I mean, it's silly. We're just saying trans women are harming cisgender women, or real women.
Yeah, that's not even really what they say. Well, they normally make more specific points, but these people don't like specific points. And when you make a specific point, I'm not saying Vaush is going to do this because he tries a little bit harder than this. I'll give him a tiny bit of credit. Like, most of the time people want to be like, oh, you're just bringing up that argument because that's an argument you're strong on. And it's like, no, that's just one of the arguments they have. And the other arguments they're strong on, those are the other arguments they have. No one's talking about trans women harming women by sitting around talking to a camera all fucking day. You know what I'm saying? Because no one cares. There's things that people care about. Like, fuck me. Never worked any trade. Maybe he hasn't, I don't know. I do, like, people like Xander Howell, I always had this feeling of, like, watching a guy tell people what society should be like from, like, their bedroom, which they never leave. Like, admittedly, I probably look like I do the same, but I'm in my 30s. I've spent years and years and years working and stuff. I've spent a lot of time around other people. And people are free to believe me or not believe me on that, so I don't know.
I mean, as some of them might say, by
Listen, on my other channel, there's video evidence that I go outside sometimes, and I'm around other people sometimes, so hey.
Obfuscating the difference between trans and cis people, which is, I mean, it's silly. We're just saying trans women are women. There's not much else to it. Real women, as some of them might say, by obfuscating the difference between
by obfuscating the difference. I don't know what this argument is.
Trans and cis people, which is
you're harming women by obfuscating the difference. I don't know if I've thought smokes cloves, maybe, yeah, fucking hell. I don't know if I've heard that many arguments that are actually that. Kind of seems like a straw man.
Just, I mean, it's silly. We're just saying trans women are women. There's not much else to it.
See, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And I mean, you've stated this elsewhere. You've said, and I've heard other people say this, that, you know, black women have a different experience to white women, and lesbian women have a different...
Like, every woman has a different experience to every other woman. Like, I don't know.
Experience to straight women. But I think the fundamental point is that you understand patriarchy as something where men have oppressed women.
He's made himself schizophrenic. I used to think he was sensible, and I don't know if I'd watch his older stuff and think that again, because I can't really remember what I watched. But June 2020, I probably was getting into him at this point. So I don't know, there's no excuse, but like I said, I was woke back then.
and that this has always taken a similar form of being, to a significant extent, based on biology. Now, I'm not an essentialist, and I think a lot of gender critical people are not essentialists. I don't believe that it's all 100% about biology, and I think that
here's another problem. When people talk about gender critical or TERF, they always use the most extreme definition they can. It's the same with transmed.
And things outside of biology can determine gender, but biology has a huge part in it. And
he caught the social contagion as much as any rapid onset gender dysphoria tween FTM. Yeah, but I don't know. His thing is grifting to those people, so.
And you're saying, well, we can understand the struggles of women who also happen to have a broadly female biology, while also understanding that some women have penises. And certainly I agree you can, but I would argue, is that the best way to understand what patriarchy is in terms of the historic oppression? Like people...
Patriarchy affects everyone, regardless of biology. Patriarchy affects toxic masculinity and the way that straight men experience life.
Patriarchy affects social toxic masculinity, I guess.
Patriarchy significantly affects gay men, and they aren't oppressed by their biology. They're men. Even the beefiest, hunkiest, big muscle, colossal, beefy, gorilla-dicked gay men.
I'm going to be honest. Nobody thinks they're the bad guy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be honest. Some of the feminist jargon does make my brain turn off as well. And that's kind of a problem with both of them. But that's a problem with me, ultimately, so...
are still affected negatively by social conceptions relating to the patriarchy. And nobody, not even TERFs, would go up to these people and say, well, the patriarchy never affected you. No, of course not. Now, there is an element of patriarchal oppression that is rooted in the biological dimorphism between cisgender men and cisgender women. That's definitely the case. But we are not, that's not being sanded over with the acknowledgement that trans women are...
He's very focused on this sanded over thing. Go back 10 seconds. I don't know when it was exactly.
No, of course not. Now, there is an element of patriarchal oppression that is rooted in the biological dimorphism between cisgender men and cisgender women. That's definitely... patriarchy affects toxic masculinity and the way that straight men experience life. Patriarchy significantly affects gay men, and they aren't oppressed by their biology. They're men. Even the beefiest, hunkiest, big muscle, colossal, beefy, gorilla-dicked gay men are still affected negatively by...
Gorilla dicked. He just fucking talks like that. He's an edgy boy, How does Vaush still have an audience after the horse and lolly shit? Hi, Sabe, or Sabe. I'm not sure how your name is said, I'm sorry. The reason he's got an audience is because he managed to get enough of a cult following together that will follow him to the ends of the earth that they've stuck around. So, unfortunately, if you get big enough, it's very difficult to cancel someone. Not that I'm saying we should cancel people, but he's also a lolicon, which I think is disgusting. So I'm not as against cancel culture when it comes to certain kinds of people.
Social conceptions relating to the patriarchy. And nobody, not even TERFs, would go up to these people and say, well, the patriarchy never affected you. No, of course not. Now, there is an element of patriarchal...
Don't insult Aquarius. Listen, my partner's Aquarius.
Oppression that is rooted in the biological dimorphism between cisgender men and cisgender women. That's definitely the case. But we are not, that's not being sanded over with the acknowledgement that trans women are still women. And most trans women...
Well, no, what's being sanded over is biology. Because trans women were born male and will die male and are males that have changed certain things about themselves. Certain social and physical components to make themselves more like a woman. I don't actually mind the definition where it's it's imitation. I don't really mind that very much.
Women end up getting subjected to a lot of the same physiological disparities that cisgender women do. If you talk to a trans woman who's
Yeah, in some ways misogyny can affect trans women, because if someone mistakes you for a woman and is sexist to you, then yeah, sure. But two things experiencing something isn't really the same. Straight people can experience homophobia if someone decides that a straight person is gay and has a go at them over it. What is it, a Camaro that hit a deer?
who's been living as a woman for some time, they're going to be a fuckload more nervous about walking alone
I think I know what you mean, yeah.
at night. They're going to be a lot more nervous about spending time around cisgender men because they now recognize that the social systems that they then would have participated in as the perpetrator are now systems which affect them. I think
I'm gonna say I didn't feel like a perpetrator of anything when I was male, like when I was living cis male or whatever. I don't know. And like, so many people don't understand this kind of shit or think the world works a certain way. And then they transition, like especially FTMs. And then they realize that the way men socialize is like so different to how women socialize. And it's actually really quite difficult to make friends and shit. And that people tend to view men just generally with more suspicion than women. Say if you're walking out alone at night and a man is near you, you might cross the road or some shit. And they don't realize all of this is going to be their life now, and that male privilege is quite a simplistic way of looking at it, because it's not just the case that men are privileged and women are not, you know? Because your socialization is what it is. I was socialized as a male. I mean, my socialization was very unusual because of how many issues I have. But for those that don't so much, like, they realize that it's kind of an alien world in some ways, and it's a shock to the system, you know?
you are the one who is being reductive and standing over understanding by ignoring this.
Right, okay.
By ignoring that trans women are women.
Social systems that they then would have participated in as the perpetrator are now systems which affect them. I think you are the one who is being reductive and standing over understanding by ignoring this.
Right, okay.
What? What is it? So trans misogyny exists? Is that what we're saying? I don't know. I don't have the energy.
I'm going to have to kind of just like two things. Well, one, I wouldn't say, so obviously, yes, everybody is affected by patriarchy, but I think that it's important to understand the distinctions between how different people are affected. You know, the way I'm affected as a man is not the same as how a woman is affected. And I know you're going to say, well,
I wonder if this is still on Vaush's channel, by the way.
yeah, sure, but you know, there's all sorts of differences within the category of women and men. However, I think that it's also important to understand that historically, within understanding what patriarchy is, also understanding how misogynists understand patriarchy.
That's why I just keep to myself. Yeah, for the most part, same. I don't know. And the older you get, the less you need shit tons of people around you, and you just kind of stick to the good ones.
It makes sense to say, okay, well, if you're somebody who generally fits into what we consider a man, and I should clarify, I don't think gender is easy to define in a gender critical perspective, but I also don't think that just saying, well, it's completely up self-identity is very helpful either, because the people who actually are oppressing men and women based on different understandings of patriarchy are...
My thoughts about self-ID and just gender being whatever you decide it is that kind of makes gender meaningless. Personally, I don't see my social privilege as a woman. There's a point that always sits weirdly with me. Okay, I'll keep watching. I don't know if I can remember what the point was anymore.
Doing them in very different ways, and they're doing them based on an understanding of gender that is not in line with just self-identity. I don't think it makes sense to have a completely different sense of gender to the system you're critiquing. Because then I think you're kind of not able to communicate as easily.
We can't. In what way can I not communicate? Like, as a person who recognizes that gender is a product of self-identification, what am
That recognizes. You don't recognize, it's your theory.
I missing? Like, what can't I describe? What understanding am I lacking in?
I'd say that's a...
I'm right. Why aren't I right?
Good question. I'd say there's loads of things that gender critical theory explains better than queer theory. But one thing I'd say it does is I think it makes it easier to understand the oppression of gender non-conforming people. You know, you look at the big focus of transgender...
Oh yeah, it does, because some people are just men that aren't very manly, and some people are women that aren't very feminine.
Politics. A huge amount of it is people should be able to go to whichever bathroom it is they identify with. People should be able to go to whichever abuse shelter it is they identify with. But according also to queer theory, somebody being a drag queen, somebody being somebody who dresses up like a woman, or somebody being, you know, a kind of also going to feel like a, you know, I don't want to use like memey terms like sissy, somebody who dresses up as a woman for sexual...
Autogynephilia is a pretty memey term, considering it's not used anywhere in academia or medicine.
Academia, no less.
I know, yeah, I know.
It exists though, right? Like AGP exists. Like the thing that I contest is like the typology, the you're either this or you're that, because I think that's extremely reductive, and I feel like I don't fit in it. But AGP exists. Like, I don't know if we can get away with these. This was 4 years ago, to be clear. I don't know if we'd get away with these kind of arguments today. Yeah, macadamias is expensive. I don't know. I have a slight thing every time someone says academia. Maybe it's the correct way of saying it, but it just sounds douchey.
but that's the term I know, so that's the only one. But somebody who gets off on the idea of being perceived as a woman, but they might not consider themselves to be a woman. They might consider themselves to be a man. And the issue, I would think, is, well, hold a minute, aren't those people
auto ghosted me? I get sexual pleasure from wanting to die. Oh my god, that's a whole new. Listen, that's a whole new theory of trans that makes certain things make sense, but I'm not gonna espouse any of that.
just as likely to be subject to all sorts of horrible treatment in a man's bathroom or in a man's abuse shelter as somebody who considers themselves to identify as a woman. So it seems to me.
Yeah, but how do I not know that?
Well, what I'm saying is it seems to me like queer theory muddies the understanding and properly kind of dealing with the experiences and the oppression of people who are gender non-conforming. And the reason it does so is because, and again,
the reason it does, yeah, I think maybe he's gonna get to it if you give him like a couple more seconds. Fuck me.
Yeah, the big focus is on women, whether they're trans women or cis women, should be allowed to go into women's shelters because trans women are likely to face all sorts of issues in a man's shelter or in a man's prison or anywhere else. But I would say, well, hold on a minute, what about men who are gender non-conforming, who are in the exact same situation? Their issues are bulldozed over in the interest of, well, it's all about...
How are they bulldozed over?
Because of the focus that you have, which is 100%.
No, you're perceiving the focus. I've talked about all of this before. You're inventing limitations of existing queer theory so you can criticize them for going over certain people. If you sincerely believe that TERFs have a greater degree of...
TERFs? God, he was like captured even then. Like, this is kind of eye-opening.
Concern for gender non-conforming people, many of whom will then later go on to be transgender, then queer theory, which has long been a shelter for, both academically and literally, the concept...
Yeah, I think I'd have some anecdotes at the very least.
Of gender nonconformity, then I'm not entirely sure what to say. The idea that people are oppressed based on various characteristics associated with their gender, it doesn't begin and end with identity. It's very well right to recognize that some people who identify as a man, who are cisgender men, who are still more feminine or gender nonconforming, might also be subject to certain patriarchal, elements of oppression. But I would never deny that. I mean, that's not a limitation that I have.
I think that the focus it puts on, because you look at historically the oppression of these people. You look at where we're coming from. You look at the society that we exist in, that we're criticizing. Bigots do not care. And you think about, okay, and this is just an example that I think of, which I think perfectly encapsulates this. There was an old man. Doesn't matter who the old man is, but I was watching TV with him. And do you know Eddie Izzard, the comedian Eddie Izzard?
Oh, he looks at the camera for some reason.
There was an old man. Doesn't matter who the old man is, but I was watching TV with him. And do you know Eddie Izzard, the comedian Eddie Izzard?
I do not.
Okay, he's a comedian in the UK who performs in drag. And he identifies as a man. He appears on TV with makeup on. And this old man, this, let's be honest, bigot, says, ugh, he's disgusted to see a man in drag. Now, my point is that the experience of that man, of that old bigot...
Well, yeah, surely that man should just be able to do what he wants. And if he's still a man, then that's cool, right? I don't know. I think that's what King Critical is getting at. I've watched a few of his videos, so I think I understand his positions better than vaush probably does here. Which isn't a thing on him. Like, he probably just isn't very familiar with this guy.
Judging that person as being gender non-conforming is identical whether or not Eddie Izzard identifies as a woman.
Yeah, what if they still feel like a man? What if like someone like Jeffree Star, I think Jeffree Star still identifies as like a man or whatever. Like, what's wrong with that?
Or a trans person. So for me, it doesn't seem useful to take this exact same identical type of bigotry and turn it into two different types of bigotry, depending...
Yeah, it's Susie Eddie Izzard now. I call him Ezzy Izzard half the time. Susie Eddie Izzard. There we go. I think they might be trans, but I can't remember.
They're highly related. I mean, they're not exactly the same. They're very related.
I haven't seen Hannibal. I'm not much of a film watcher, and if that's not a film, then maybe that shows how little of a film watcher I am. I don't know.
They're different in how it's experienced by the person being subjected to it. But again, like, this isn't a limitation that I have. This is one of the problems that I have with TERFs,
Oh, is Buffalo Bill in Hannibal or something? Is that what it is?
Poise yourself as somebody who just has legitimate concerns about the limitation of an academic framework, but your belief system leads to the harm and degradation that I have. What being subject
this exact same identical type of bigotry and turn it into two different types of bigotry, depending on the self-identity of the person.
I feel like this is just turning into a slanging match, and we're 13 minutes in. I didn't want to like him, but he was so good as a serial killer. Wait, how come Hannibal never got any shit for that, but J.K. Rowling had a cross-dresser that wasn't even trans as like a murderer, and that was like the worst thing ever?
They're highly related. I mean, they're not exactly the same. They're very related. They're different in how it's experienced by the person being subjected to it. But again, like, this isn't a limitation that I have. This is one of the problems that I have with TERFs, you know. You poise yourself as somebody who just has legitimate concerns about the limitation of an academic framework, but your belief system leads to the harm and degradation of trans people.
Does it have to? I mean, isn't that contingent on you believing that trans women are women and not just men? So what harm are we talking about? Like, isn't there harm either way, potentially? If we're going to insist that males are women, I'm not sure.
You're coming to me from the perspective of a bigot. You're the person who's ignoring, essentially, the autonomy and the
This is, like, fucking cringe. Like, has he said anything bigoted yet? Like, fuck me.
Academic consensus with trans people on the presumption that there is some incredibly specific and esoteric situation in which you perceive there might be limitations to queer theory? In what way exactly, and for what reason, should I not believe that transgender women are women in every such way as a cisgender woman is a woman, or at least no more so?
Every such way? Wait, wasn't he saying earlier he doesn't know any trans people that compare themselves one-to-one with cis women? Surely he said that earlier. I'm not going to go back and check, because I can't remember when it was, and I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to stand, because he's doing my head in now, but, like, I don't know.
Far than the difference between a tall woman and a short woman. What are the problems with my theory? What's the problem with my perspective?
Well, it's fucking retarded, because a bunch of them were born male, and usually we have another word for males, that being man. Like, let's pretend sex doesn't exist. What are the problems with my argument? I think there's a fucking massive elephant in the room, actually.
Well, I think one reason why you shouldn't believe it is because the reason you state for believing it is because you want to mitigate harm, which I don't think is a good reason.
Yeah, it's not in the interest of truth, and it suggests a lack of curiosity. You don't want what's true, you want what makes people feel good. Like, I don't know.
To affirm something
that's
true.
Literally why we have social constructs. There's no truth value to pursue. You just have they serve human needs.
Social constructs don't exist to stop people feeling upset. I mean, the reason why we have the social construct of race and the reason why it's very useful for...
Yeah, they don't exist to, like, protect people. Is that what vaush is trying to say? I don't know. I'm so fucking lost.
Progressives to understand the construct of race and have a very clear understanding of what race is beyond just self-identity or anything like that, is because it helps us to understand the oppression.
Nice. I don't know who Daryl Strawberry is. I've not heard of him.
Both historical and today.
Or her.
Of people of color. You know, the reason why we have the construct of gender is because it helps us to understand the oppression, both historical and current, of...
We have a better understanding
now
of
the oppression, both historical and today, of people of color. You know, the reason why we have the construct of gender is because it helps us to understand the oppression, both historical and current, of...
We have a better understanding now of the racial dynamics of the Roman Empire, even though our current understanding of race has nothing to do with that of the Roman Empire. You don't need to preserve oppressive social constructs to continue to understand them. There's no
what he said?
Relationship between those two things. What then? Should we keep racism? Racism is a social construct, and by preserving race...
I feel like he did not say any of that. Should we keep racism? Well, no, because racism suggests that one group of people are inferior, and that's very hard to determine. I mean, I don't know. What am I supposed to...
We preserve and amber the relations between black and white people, making it easier for us to understand the way in which these groups interact with one another. Social constructs exist because people want them to exist, or at the very least because we allow them to exist. But if we're going to change them, we have to recognize we do so with the intent of making life better for people. Isn't that what TERFs are always crowing on about? The expectations of femininity? Why should a woman be expected to wear high heels and makeup and what have you? What is that but not challenging a social construct for the betterment of the people subjected to it?
The thing is, okay, you're talking about the construct as, I mean, apart from that's like a moral judgment, versus a construct as an analytic tool to talk about what the disagreement is over. So racism versus anti-racism is a disagreement over a agreed construct, which is race. And anti-racism is saying, yeah, okay, race exists as a
Yeah, that's true. Like, he's being very patient with vaush.
Social construct, insofar as its effects are real. A racist is saying, yeah, race exists for, you know, all sorts of shitty reasons. And they think that certain races are bad. In a similar way, you know, a misogynist is somebody who says, or any kind of, you know, gender-based socialist, obviously usually it's going to be a misogynist, is going to say, well, gender exists, and there's one gender which is better than the other, and the person who's...
Yeah, fuck knows. Like, vaush is, like, fucking cooked. Like, he's always been, like, weird, and he only got weirder and weirder from here as well.
An egalitarian is going to say no.
But, like, this guy's a big deal in, like, TRA circles. Like, a lot of trans people like this guy, even post fucking lolly. I wonder why.
gender does exist as a social construct in terms of its effects being real, but there's not one gender that's better than the other. And I don't see how it helps you or helps anyone in any way to then say, well, actually, yeah, this disagreement, but also I have a completely different understanding of gender. And in fact, you can be any gender you want based on self-identity. I don't see how...
So yeah, but you're arguing you're a transphobe. You're making a prescriptive judgment right now. You're not just saying we need to understand gender, because I understand gender just fine. You're arguing that we need to prescriptively assign certain gender roles and expectations to fit with your social preferences. If you're arguing...
What? No, I think he's saying that there's males and females. Fucking hell. How do people listen to this utter moron? How did I ever? I guess I just watched stuff that I actually agreed with him on.
Think that we need to have an understanding of gender as it exists, then fine, of course I agree with that. I've never had any trouble whatsoever relating to people's gendered experiences. I mean, I went to school for that crap, kind of. But with regards to improving the social construct, you can only do that by challenging the way it exists now. TERFs do this the same way. When they do this, oh, well, we shouldn't have to wear makeup to be a woman. We shouldn't have to wear high heels to be a woman. Woman is not a performance. Woman is whatever. What they're doing is they're challenging an existing social construct and saying that their identity shouldn't be subject to rules and regulations placed on them by society. Everyone wants to change social constructs. You're arguing against the idea of improving society.
Well, people want to change social constructs and what they believe, I guess. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's true. How does that help us here, though?
I think it's actually funny you mentioned prescriptivism. I think that's exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about people wanting to change constructs that say, do this, you should behave this way, this is what you should be like. That's not what gender critical feminists are talking about. Gender critical feminists are talking about the only construct that they're talking about preserving is a construct which doesn't say, do this, or act this way.
Are trans women women?
No.
Yeah, and quit dressing up with your language with academic speak. You're making prescriptive judgments.
And it's not
He's getting angry.
I'm not saying like don't do this thing. I'm saying
you are. You're prescriptively saying we should
Why is he shouting at him? Like, what did he say? Like, why not just let him like fucking talk?
identify, or we should have a form of gender. We should have a social construct of gender which prevents people from identifying as this or that. You're making a prescriptive judgment.
Someone in chat was like, did they just say no?
The difference is mine.
Fuck you, blast Brit bonger, fuckhead, TERF. Fuck the British. All my homies hate the British. Wow, hating the British. Very original.
Helps people. Yours hurts people. Quit dressing this up as though you're trying to just
Yours hurts people. Oh my god. He hasn't demonstrated how, has he? Has he said anything about how this person's supposed social constructs like hurt people? I don't fucking know, man.
Preserve in amber this academic understanding of gender that I am obfuscating with my changed definitions. I understand every...
Obfuscate... hang on. Maybe he said that he's claiming he's obfuscating, because I thought that was like serious projection for a minute.
Mine helps people, yours hurts people.
Yours helps people? Does it help people? Why is the trans suicide rate still so fucking high then? Emery Randall, hey, yet another mindless stool sample video, and yet you keep coming back. Maybe you should just fucking subscribe and, let's get this love affair over with,
Dressing this up as though you're trying to just preserve in amber this academic understanding of gender that I am obfuscating with my changed definitions. I understand every conceivable social interaction that a TERF could possibly accuse me of not understanding. My question to you is, how does it make it better? How does it make the world better to say trans women are not women?
Well, first of all, I think truth...
Well, it might help preserve single-sex spaces. It might help keep female sports fair. Just two examples. Just got here is this. Oh, hi, just an ink searcher. Yep, this is old school vaush, as evidenced by the ponytail and the ear. He was talking to King Critical 4 years ago, and he's currently being mean because he's a transphobe, I guess. He hasn't said anything I find offensive, but like, that's what we were like in 2020. Like, the kind of stuff he's saying then, that was like sacrilege to any fucking leftist back in 2020. Like, Jesus Christ.
Is inherently valuable, and I think that having
it's a social construct, there's no inherent truth value.
Having a logical understanding, a helpful understanding of a social construct is good for the pursuit of truth. I think having one that makes sense. I don't think it makes sense to have a definition of a social construct which is completely foreign to the people who are an oppressive class, which is completely foreign to the history of that oppression.
Again, right now you're just arguing against the idea of changing social constructs. People could have adapted your exact same arguments to keeping black women out of white women's spaces 60 years ago in the US. Everything.
What? I think there's a bit of a difference between saying biological males aren't women and we should keep black women out of a certain space, or whatever the fuck he said. Like, Jesus Christ.
Thing you're saying right now, well, I'm not against black women. Actually, I just think we ought to recognize the fact that there are historical differences and we should
And now he's going to go on a massive soy rant about something he didn't even say to, like, prove what point. Why are all fucking Brit bongers so fucking emojis? Middle class twats. It's literally a Ben Shapiro meme. God, please stop this idiot.
respect the logical fact that there are differences between these groups. Everything you're saying right now is just reappropriated language of bigotry that could have been used centuries ago between different groups. So
oh, they love this one. The whole, well, this kind of language is used to talk about gay people in 1956 or whatever. Like, who cares? That doesn't have any bearing on whether it's correct or not, you know?
So I ask you again, because utility is what I am concerned with, and there is no truth value to appeal to.
Oh, yeah, he's a utilitarian. I forgot. So that's why he wants to affirm the fuck out of delusional people, because he's a utilitarian.
Here,
it's all a matter of analysis. Why?
Well, first of all, I think that it's not the same as what you're describing. What would be the most obvious equivalent, and it's funny you bring up race, because what would be the most obvious equivalent is black women and white women are fundamentally, well, sorry, not fundamentally, are different in terms of what race they should be understood as, and that it's not about self-identity, that a white woman can't just identify as a black woman. What you're describing is instigating certain policies based on an understanding of gender, and particularly your example of keeping black women and white women in separate places. And of course, it could be black men and white men, just black people in general.
I'm just advocating for policies that make the world a better place. I can point to data to back up all of my perspective.
Oh God, I had no idea how much I hated vaush, and I didn't like him before I went into this video. Like, what did he just say? Something really irked me.
And just black people in general.
I'm just advocating for policies that make the world a better place.
Dude, he's talking about the example that you just brought up, and now you're complaining that he's talking about, like, what? Why did you bring it up then? It was a fucking pivot to start with. No one was talking about whether black women and white women should be in the same spaces. They were both born female, that's why they're called women. Like, it's like we're just pretending the fucking massive elephant in the room just isn't here and just seeing how far we can go with it. Like, yeah, there's a clear difference between women and trans women. One of them was born male and it wasn't the women. Like, fucking hell.
What you're describing is, I'm not saying you're advocating for it, I'm saying what you're describing.
By the way, as great as this fucking grift is, most of these people, I mean, vaush has pissed off loads of people. They all end up fucking up and saying things that some kind of woke people don't like. And then that kind of shit constantly goes on. To me, it seems easier just to not have these fucking woke people around you in the first place.
Accusing me, or you're suggesting that me saying gender exists, and that it matters that we define it in a way that helps us to best understand the historical.
There is no lack of understanding, but this is the lie.
There's no lack of understanding. Also, we understand males and females well enough, so we might as well, if we want to change the concept because it protects trans women, then I guess. This is so stupid. Like, what's he? Play the fucking video. Just play the fucking video.
Keep falling back on. I don't lack any understanding. There is no scenario in which I, as a queer theorist or an intersectional feminist, could not form a decent explanation for or understanding of what's going on. This is the lie you keep falling back on. Why do we preserve bigotry? Well, because it helps us understand. But I understand.
He was never talking about preserving bigotry. That's what you're fucking saying. What the fuck is going on? This conversation is like, it's like getting into a washing machine and then coming back out 4 hours later. Like, what did you just experience then? I don't know. Honestly. Oh my God, I'm not going to last much longer with this because this is terrible.
Understand everything, so you're left with naught but a defense of bigotry. So I ask you, why are trans women not women? Why should we not do this thing?
Ooh. Let's go.
Well,
goddamn Brit Bong is ruining the stream.
Because again, it does not help us to. And the thing is, okay, I want to.
It helps trans women.
It helps trans women how?
It sure as shit helps them.
Like, he's allowing him to just spout that over and over.
You can understand. You can.
Material. How so? Explain. Explain how denying someone's physical sex and choosing to go with what they've told you they are instead, despite the fact that people lie routinely. How does that help trans people? How does the opposite of that harm trans people? He hasn't explained that at all. So I don't know why he keeps playing it like a trump card. Like, I don't know, I guess, listen, I don't want to criticize King Critical a huge amount. Because, like, I haven't really debated anyone in this way. I don't know how it feels. You kind of come out with what you come out with, and, like, you just roll with whatever comes to your head, I guess, to an extent. But, like, he shouldn't even let vaush be getting away with that. Like, this should have been, like, a focus, if anything.
And understand anything within your conception of gender as being entirely based on self-identity. The question is it useful in terms of making things simpler, making things clearer? Because as I see it,
whoa.
Theory.
Wait, you know what the simplest explanation for black crime in America is? That black...
Oh, and then we get black crime in America. No one asked about black crime in America. Now we're going on and off on another tangent. He hasn't answered the question that well of why trans women aren't women. Because he says the first part, and then as he's getting onto literally anything else, this fucking idiot changes the conversation to fucking race. Why is he so obsessed with race? This is two white people talking. Is there anything that much cringier than two white people talking about fucking racism? Unless it's about anti-white racism, I guess.
People have lower IQs and have the warrior gene. That's the simplest explanation. Pardon me for not deferring to your anti-intellectual desire to just appease.
Jesus Christ. He doesn't even say anything, and then he just starts spouting off. This is where a lot of this fucking Twitter shit comes from. I'm becoming more and more convinced. It's not just vaush. He's not the only one that deserves the blame for this shit, but he's definitely one of them, and one of the more prominent ones.
Is the simplest explanation for people who are looking to justify bigotry. I'm looking to make the world a better place.
Like, the idea that trying to make things simple is inherently anti-intellectual is stupid. Like, obviously, yes, you
shouldn't
be...
simplicity as an inherent value as opposed to, like, justice or, like, making the world...
Justice? What's justice got to do with anything?
World a better place is, yes, very silly.
But, obviously...
He hasn't even explained how anything he believes makes the world a better place. He just gets to make this arrogant, like, perception... self-perception, and then just hammer it home. Like, I think King Critical is not like that much of a debater. I think I saw a video where he said as much, which is fair enough. Again, I'm not trying to shit on him, but like, I don't know. Like, this must be like, for vaush, it's just easy mode, just fucking saying that shit over and over again, because his idiot audience are gonna soy out to fuck over it. This person, he just doesn't want them to go anywhere with their arguments, and will cut in every time if he needs to.
Yes, simplicity should not come in place of things which help us understand the world.
Yeah, simplicity shouldn't come in place of, like, the truth, but nor should making the world a better place by some fucking metric that I decided myself.
But ultimately, a simpler explanation is easier. It's one which makes it easier to have discourse. It's one which makes it easier to explain things.
I explain things just fine.
Queer theory doesn't...
Oh god, if vaush thinks that he explains things just fine and that his rhetoric is like streamlined and shit, watch him on any panel show. He can't handle them. Like, vaush's argument style is fucking terrible for debates with more than 2 or 3 people, because he rambles on for minutes at a time. And you can't do that in panels. People just start cutting in, and he can't handle it. There was this one where he decided to call George Bush and whoever his running mate was, fascists. And some fucking idiot called Mix Vivian Wolf was in this panel. Literally, even she was fucking correcting him. But the basis of his foundation, of his argument to begin with, was his
You're
arse.
anti-trans.
Whoa. Oh, someone subscribed. Hey, thank you. I put some new alerts in. That actually scared the fuck out of me. You're anti-trans, I guess, because you subscribed to me. But the basis foundation of his argument is different to begin with his arse. It was a different class of people asking for the same rights as another class. Yeah. I don't even like equivocating trans people and gay people, because I don't think they're the same really at all. Like, someone changing gender and sex and stuff, that's a lot more contentious than just someone who wants to sleep with men instead of women. Like, it's a different thing, and it doesn't, changing your gender isn't supposed to be anything to do with your sexuality, although I think it probably is for some people, but like, I don't know.
Explain anything.
Wait, you could say all this about race realism.
He's not a race realist. Why are we still talking about race?
Why?
Because you could do the same. It's much easier to explain that black people and white people are just...
That doesn't mean it's a bad argument in his case. You can't just fucking Well, you could use that argument to be a Nazi. It's like, I don't know. I'm not using that argument to be a Nazi. That's the point. The point is I'm trying to express what I think, not what a Nazi thinks, you know?
Inherently different, more different. It's very easy to explain. It's very
when they go
understandable.
up against evidence?
That's what I'm asking you.
We don't.
Wait, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, but hold on. First of all, it's important to understand this is not an evidential question. You can't have evidence for what gender should mean. All you can do is look at the facts we have and ask what explanation best helps us understand this thing.
No. Wait, stop deferring to the understanding. I understand. This is the lie.
Stop deferring to the understanding.
You keep repeating this. Well, I'm lacking something. I'm lacking some mote of understanding because I engage in queer theory. You realize my job on this.
Don't these people constantly tell people what they don't understand? I had someone in my chat earlier telling me how dumb I apparently am. Don't these people do that constantly? I feel like there's a bit of projection coming in here. I wonder if like the accusations, I reckon some of them we can probably pin on like projection.
This channel is convincing people who disagree with me, right? It is literally my job to understand.
No, your job is to win shitty debates. And when I say win, I mean you have a debate, the two of you both go off to your own corners of the internet and both decide that you won, and life goes on.
Understand and disseminate information on these subjects. So your repeated insistence that we should discriminate against...
Vaush should not use the word disseminate, by the way.
...millions of people worldwide because it leads to an easier explanation is extremely unconvincing to me. You keep deferring back to this.
Wait, how does biological realism like oppress or harm trans people? I don't feel oppressed from having acknowledged that I am in fact a male. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm oppressed because of that. I don't think I'm oppressed because, you know, I have a different gender and sex or whatever the fuck you're gonna call it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how what he's saying is like oppressive or harmful.
Why should we do something which leads very heavily to the suicidality of a massive group of people?
What? Is he talking about like misgendering and stuff?
Why should we contradict the evidence and arguments made by virtually every reputable scientific and academic organization on the planet?
Oh, here we go. Orgs. Here we go. WPATH, APA. Who else do you want to fucking name? I don't know.
Why should we spit in the faces of people who've been fighting for their civil rights for decades? Well, because it's simpler. Oh, it's easier.
This shit hasn't changed as much as I realize. I mean, the trans arguments haven't changed. I know that for sure, but like, fuck me. I was so like anti like TERFs and shit when I was younger.
It's much easier to say, well, gender is your sex, rather than just saying gender is a matter of identity. Like, that's it. Like, that's your entire argument. It's just simpler. Like, it hurts your brain less.
Yeah, but gender is a matter of identity has a lot of really weird, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Implications. Like, if you just decide that you're a gender, so what, you can have access to women's spaces because you decided you're a woman? What if you look like a man? What if you literally look like Vaush here and you say, I'm a woman? Are you a woman? I don't personally believe that you are. And even if you were to say, I'm a trans woman now, it's like, I probably wouldn't believe you on that either, to be honest. Does he mean in relation to spaces distinctions? There are no third spaces. You have to remain navigate male spaces. I have no idea. And is that oppression? I mean, ultimately, you don't choose to have gender dysphoria, but who knows which trans people actually have gender dysphoria anymore because it's trendy and shit. Hopefully not for much longer. And then I had another one, and I can't remember it. I'll come back.
You need less wrinkles to process it? Like, is that it?
And he's just being insulting. Like, he's been doing that for a decent while. It's just been casting judgments on this person's character. Completely unwarranted. I don't know what this person has done that's rude against him, so...
Well, again, I would clarify, gender critical theory does not leave you with a simple understanding of gender. You still have a very complicated understanding of gender if you believe in gender critical. However, by having queer theory, it becomes needlessly complicated while explaining nothing, which is a bad theory. You know, if you have a theory...
I agree with him, but he needs to get into, like, specifics, and, like, Vaush won't let him get into specifics, so I don't know how much of that is deliberate or not, because I can't trust this fucking guy.
For why we have the fossil record.
And he's the trans ally, by the way.
And you say, oh, evolution, fine. But I've got a way more convoluted theory that, you know, it was put there by the devil because he wanted to play a joke. Well,
fossil records aren't a social construct.
The obvious response somebody's going to have is, yeah, and I'm not saying The fossil records aren't the social construct. Evolution is a theory to explain the reality of the fossils.
What was it someone fucking said? It was on my philosophy tube video. I got a really fucking stupid comment earlier today telling me that mammals are a social construct, as is sex. And the only thing I could think of that they meant was that the words are socially constructed because we came up with words for them. And it's like, yeah, the category of mammals as we understand them probably is like fucking socially constructed. But the line of evolution from mammal to mammal and however many there were until it became us, that wasn't a social construct. We didn't evolve socially, you know?
There is no reality of gender.
Feminism is a theory that explains the reality of women's persecution, the patriarchy's attitude towards women
gender relations.
And in a similar way, gender is a social construct, which helps us explain the reality of how people have been oppressed based on their gender. And the best way to understand it is to say, okay, you've got women who have been historically oppressed this way, and that's basically...
It's not just women. It's men. Wait, it's men too.
And men, and also, while these people fall into category women and men, gender...
Someone told me fish were a construct. Fish are socially constructed. I don't know why that tickled me so much.
Non-conforming people, I would say.
All of which is affected by patriarchy. You're the one being reductive here. And there is no inherent truth to gender. There is an inherent truth to fossil records. Isn't
it a bit reductive to say there is no inherent truth to gender, maybe? I don't know. I don't even know what the word gender means anymore. I don't know if they weren't using sex as much back in 2020. Like, maybe forcing it down that way would have been a better idea. But to be honest, there is no winning a debate with vaush because it isn't a debate, really. So he's hammering down his pro-trans talking points and he's not gonna give an inch, like, ever. And that isn't debate. If the other person isn't going to give an inch, then they have no curiosity for what anyone else thinks. So what's the point in them being there?
Carbon date, you can figure out this, that, you can identify some particular thing about this.
The point is, I'm saying that gender is the explanation for the inherent truth. There is an inherent truth to, and I don't want to go into this, but what happens to women?
Wait, but I understand that.
Yeah, and I'm saying that there is an inherent truth for women. There's an inherent truth.
Stop. Is gender real? Not just a social construct. Is
gender real? What the fuck does that mean? Chat, is gender real?
Real in a physical sense. If all of humanity were obliterated.
I don't think it's oppression. You could observe a deep irony in the way that trans women regarding patriarchy is unfortunately difficult. Yeah, I think I feel what you're saying, yeah.
In some sort of plague, would gender still exist somewhere in the universe?
I mean, it's a pretty philosophical question. I mean, obviously,
without humans to consider it, would it exist?
No, not really, no.
Okay, so there's no inherent truth. There's no fundamental reality that we need to pay respect to. There is only...
I don't know, like... Gender abolitionists are like... I'm pretty sure he's a gender abolitionist. Like, I just don't see the point. What was it? I think it was Alec Gunter I watched a video of. And he was saying things like, oh yeah, it was the detransitioners video. I reacted to him talking about a detransitioner because he was like... kind of sort of technically right, but in the most bad faith way possible. But like, he says things like, I don't think we need men and women, just people. We just need people. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. Like, sex has a very prominent and vital role in everyone's life because we needed a male and a female to come together and do that. Do you think in the future one day, if we get into fucking gender abolition land, maybe people won't know how to make babies because they don't know what males and females are anymore? I'm not sure about that.
The study of the interactions of different groups of people based on their gender and the relationships between gender.
And I think that
which I understand, but you keep saying it explains it better, but I understand everything you're talking about.
Yeah,
and what does that mean? Like, whether you get it or not doesn't matter. Ironically, Julie Bindel claims she's a gender abolitionist. They're about to become best buds. Yeah, there's a bunch of crossover. There's some commonality and some common ground there, which is interesting. Oh, Pissottle, hi. Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, asked Logic. Please feel free to explain that one.
I can explain oppression that you can't.
Okay.
For trans people.
But why can't I explain oppression of trans people?
Okay, what experiences does a trans woman have, and in what way do they differ from those of a cis woman?
What experiences? Like, Jesus Christ. In what way do they differ from a cis person? You're more likely to get called a man. You're more likely to make someone uncomfortable in the toilets and or have someone confront you in the toilets. You have to take hormones where normally a woman wouldn't unless they're in menopause, which is a particular phase of their lives. I know we could go through many more. They don't have to have periods. Oh wait, that's more of a advantage if you look at it that way.
I imagine that trans people, well, it depends, obviously. What trans people mean can vary. I'd imagine that if we're talking about what we call kind of the most bona fide trans person, it would be gender dysphoria. You know, the feeling that they shouldn't be a man.
No, I mean, they're social experiences.
Social experience, I mean,
that's going to vary wildly. I've known trans people that are like extremely popular, like around just normal people, because they're just friendly and like outgoing and stuff. You know? How are we going to like generalize the fucking trans experience in this way? It's bizarre. Trans people are all different, just like men are all different and women are all different.
I mean, you know, obviously, if they kind of express their gender in a feminine way, they're going to be called all sorts of horrible things.
Like, compared to a woman, I would say a trans person, like, you know how people generally are nicer to like better looking people? I think that trans people maybe magnify that a bit because not only are they not looking great at the bottom end of that scale, excuse me, but they don't even really look like women, you know? So like they get that magnified, I think.
If they really do believe they should be a woman, then they're going to feel upset when they're not allowed into women's spaces. But
Vaush's tax folder was the best fuck you to Vaush's ego that could have ever happened. Yes, I agree. Get some 420. How you doing?
I mean, there's no issue explaining that. The question is
and I've had no issue explaining anything that you're talking about.
Oh, why doesn't he turn the shit off? I hate when the fucking things keep talking over them.
Explaining that. The question is
and I've had no issue explaining anything that you're talking about.
Yeah, the point is that your explanations...
I don't even know what the fuck he's saying half the time. Oh, well, I understand everything you're saying. Oh, okay, good. Are we talking about which is right and which is wrong? It all basically boils down to misogyny. You're more acceptable as a trans woman than conventionally attractive you are for a cis man. I think that really depends on a lot of things. It can be true. It can also be true of men. Like, do you not think ugly men probably get treated worse, or like short men than taller men, for example? I think they have a magnified version of that experience, but I don't know if I even want to say it's misogyny. I think there's, I don't know. I need to think about that more.
Queer theory doesn't help you with your explanation.
You keep saying stop deferring. I can explain. There's nothing that I'm missing. You keep saying this like
can't explain. I'm saying it doesn't help you with your explanations.
What do you mean it doesn't help me with my explanations? What does that mean? This is the most esoteric.
Dude, maybe stop asking what he means and let him talk for any amount of time.
This is the weaseliest argument ever.
I don't even know why he's angry. Fucking hell.
You're literally standing on an argument that we should oppress millions of people.
He has never mentioned like oppressing people. And again, how does a more sex realist view of the world oppress trans people?
Academic and socially standing on an argument that we should oppress millions of people. We should defy academic and social prescriptions.
Academic and social prescriptions? Like, what prescriptions are you talking about?
Should ignore the medical industry and what...
Yes, we should ignore your fucking medical industry. The medical industry in America is like captured as fuck. Yes, I agree with you, Vaush. Finally, something.
They prescribe. We should do things which we know demonstrably and measurably hurt a huge portion of our population.
He's going to give examples. Please tell me. He gives at least one.
Because you're making some esoteric argument that...
Oh, he hasn't, yeah. He goes on to, doesn't he? I'm sure
maybe you don't understand quite as well, or it doesn't explain. Well, I can explain and understand any reality of gender interaction, and I do it through queer theory. So obviously, that argument is not very helpful in explaining why we should oppress or contribute to the oppression of such a large group of people.
Wait, I swear to God I heard him give an example, and then he just didn't. I'm so sorry.
Prescription. You can't explain that. Then it doesn't help you with your explanations.
What do you mean it doesn't help me?
Like, this debate crashed and burned a long time ago. They're on such minutiae, and he's soying out so fucking hard.
With my explanations. What does that mean? This is the most esoteric... This is the weaseliest argument ever. You're literally standing on an argument that we should oppress millions of people. We should defy academic and...
Oppress them how? What's an example of the oppression that having a more sex realist view of the world necessarily contributes to? Because that says nothing about, say, bathroom laws, which might decide that bathrooms are a more gendered thing, which is basically what they are. So yeah, I'd love to hear him actually give some examples of this.
Social prescriptions. We should ignore the medical industry and what they prescribe. We should do things which we know demonstrably and measurably hurt a huge portion of
which we know. What are you talking about?
Our population. Because you're making some esoteric argument that maybe you don't understand quite as well, or it doesn't explain. Well, I can explain.
Well, yeah, I don't know. They've been talking in circles for so long. I can't even fucking remember what they're talking about at this point. This is quite common for vaush. People who advocate for sex realism generally deny gender in its entirety. Is that oppression?
And understand any reality of gender interaction, and I do it through queer theory. So obviously that
Listen, I'm not talking about what people generally do. I'm a trans woman who accepts my status as a male. I don't feel oppressed because of that. Like, what oppression do I put on myself by accepting that sex exists? You know, let's leave out whether they deny gender in its entirety. Like, you know, there's no answer being provided here. It should be easy, surely. No one knows what the word oppression means anymore. True. Miranda Yardley endeavoured for third space for trans people. It wasn't taken up by the government, trans organisations alike. Their alternative safe space social currencies don't equate to complete danger, harm, separate vehicle potential. Yeah, I still don't know how I feel about third spaces. I mean, it's not possible for everywhere, and you know, you wouldn't know whether the onus is on the businesses or the government to pay the cost. And people are funny about where their tax money goes, and they might not want extra bathrooms for the trannies because anything sounds like we're helping them, and we can't be doing that. You know, I'm not sure though. I need to keep thinking about it.
Argument is not very helpful in explaining why we should oppress or contribute.
I think with the bathrooms, one problem I have is just it's hard to really say how much of a issue we're actually solving, because I'm not aware that trans people being in bathrooms, like the ones that they prefer to be in, I'm not aware that that really is actually causing a material issue, if you know what I mean. Like, assaults happen in the bathrooms and stuff, sure, but like, I'm not sure what trans people are contributing to in that regard. I think it's much more to do with like discomfort and women that might have been traumatized by men and stuff like that. So it feels a bit like kind of cutting your finger off with like a chainsaw, cutting a little twig off with a chainsaw or something. Because I don't know how much of an actual issue there is. But then I'm also not a woman, so there is an extent to which I maybe will never understand. But
to the oppression of such a large group of people.
But at the same time, like, bad things have happened to me at the hands of both men and women, so maybe I'm just more egalitarian in that way.
You say you do it through queer theory, but queer theory, it doesn't add anything. It just
you don't know what queer theory is.
It adds a factor where, for example, somebody who is gender non-conforming, well, what would...
Has vaush really, like, demonstrated his queer theory approach in action, or has he just complained that this person is advocating for oppression, which is not a good argument?
Narrowly, very easily understood as well. If they're a man and they act like a woman, then they're going to receive oppression because of that, and that's pretty simple. But by adding this arbitrary idea of, oh wait, no, if they really feel like they're a woman, then they're really a woman, that doesn't add anything. It doesn't help anything.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't make things...
The turf was so dumb, the CIA nuked the stream. Sure. Oh, I think the chat went off for a second, and probably a bunch of young trans people almost did push the suicide count up. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. I'm not sure that we can really co-opt the language of sex realism. Well, and I use a different fucking term then. I don't care about my language. And defend bathroom access and anti-discrimination. I don't know what that means. It's quite simple. You can acknowledge what your sex is while still using gendered spaces because you fit in better for like social cohesion and for like, you know, ultimately a selfish decision, yes, but for your own comfort. Advocating from sex realism to total transgender exclusion is more consistent and logical. I don't know. I was asking what oppression he's talking about, so I don't know. I don't need like language policing. Just like answer my points, you know.
It can change the way in which they experience their oppression.
Listen, I'm sorry if I'm being short with you, but after the last time on fucking Twitter, like I'm just not in the fucking mood, to be honest.
There's a huge difference between being a guy and dressing up as a woman and getting made fun of it, and being a woman and being made fun of for being a trans woman. The way you internalize that oppression is very different. In one case, you're just being made...
Hang on. Every single thing I need to...
It's between being a...
Help adding this arbitrary idea of, oh wait, no, if they really feel like they're a woman and they're really a woman, that doesn't add anything. It doesn't help anything.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't make things...
It can change the way in which they experience their oppression.
Can change the way in which they experience their oppression.
There's a huge difference between being a guy and dressing up as a woman and getting made fun of it, and being a woman and being made fun of for being a trans woman.
Yeah, but first off, how are, like... this is painful. Sure, but people are arguing which have spaces on the grounds of sex. Well, yeah, that's one of the things, like... You can still say that sex exists and defend bathroom access. I don't think you're able to argue against that from your position in any meaningful way, as you share the same axioms. Argue against single-sex spaces. Well, I mean, I can, because for me, trans women are males, but I can see why they'd use like social space. I can see why they'd use sex spaces that match better their presentation. I mean, even coming out of like a male bathroom for a trans woman, yeah, it's probably quite humiliating. Excuse me. I don't know. You're being really vague, Pissol. You're gonna have to get a bit more. You're gonna have to actually say something, or I'm just gonna lose interest. For myself, it is comfort, privacy. I didn't consider that previously. A lot of the trans women I've seen in my area, very tall, very male. I wouldn't feel comfortable at ease sharing the spaces. To be honest, if I saw a trans woman, I didn't even realize they were a trans woman. I just thought they were a man with weird clothes on. Like, I'd be uncomfortable. I've been in a woman's bathroom before, and a man has come in. And like, yeah, it's unsettling for everyone because they're... Listen, I'm not saying it's not unsettling for other reasons for women than it is for someone like me. But it's unsettling anyway because of how much they're going against like social norms. So to me, it makes more sense that, you know, if you pass, then yeah, you probably will be fine in the bathroom. If you don't pass, you can still use it, but you might get shit for it. Or you might get mistaken for something you don't accept yourself as. Sure, but you're just reiterating the TRA line. You just tack on reiterating the TRA line. What, so bathrooms are gendered, and from the trans person's perspective, it makes sense to go with what's socially cohesive as well as what makes them comfortable because we're selfish beings. I mean, if I'm just reiterating the TRA line, maybe I just have an agreement with them now? Is that possible? I don't fucking know. I don't understand what the fuck you're on about, to be honest. And I do believe in sex, I'm sorry. So many fucking trans people out literally act like they pretend it doesn't exist. So many of these shitty videos I watch are just, I know, sex doesn't exist. Now what?
You internalize that oppression is very different. In one case, you're just being made fun of superficially. You look silly, you're dressed up as a woman. If you're a trans woman, your very identity is being challenged. And that's a very...
Is it? Well, yeah, but why is it being challenged? Because you don't look like what you're purporting to be, right? I don't know, man.
Very substantive difference to the experience of the people receiving.
I don't care, okay, if people call me a man. That doesn't challenge my identity, because no one can challenge my identity, because people don't know me. So I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Some fucking dickhead wants to shout some shit at me from a fucking van window. First off, as they're speeding off, which is extremely cowardly. Second off, I just don't give a fuck what that person thinks. They're the kind of person that will shout shit at a random person on the street. They're a fucking moron, necessarily, so I don't care. Vaush's argument hinges on personal identification, trumps everything and everything else. Yeah. See, I don't think self-identification trumps sex. I don't think what gender you think you are in your head trumps what your sex is. You can change things about yourself, but that's about it. I do concede your point. Oh, you concede your point, but it then makes the entirety, all the nuances, women's responsibility to accommodate regardless, which is ultimately unfair. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and that's why when I talk about trans women using the women's bathroom as like a selfish decision, that's kind of what I mean by that, because it shouldn't just be on them, you know. And I think there's a lot of people that take it too far. Like you've got that person that was in that changing room. I think there's been another one that was like balled down to like here, like back to here or whatever. Like some of these people are taking things too far and not caring at all what they look like, which is important, you know. If other trans people think sex isn't real or whatever, what does it even mean to you? Well, it means that a lot of trans people are extremely wrong, and that's bad. If all of us are wrong about shit, that's not going to end well for us, is it? Why is that such a bugbear? I just explained it. Planet Fitness, wasn't it? Yeah, there was that one. There was two different ones, and I can't remember if it was the same company. Like, I care about, you know, I don't know. If you knew anything about my life, maybe you'd understand, but you just kind of watch these things long enough to start giving me shit and then fucking snake out at me on Twitter for no fucking reason, instead of considering that maybe I actually think the shit that I think for a reason, and that maybe in my 34 years I've actually had fucking experiences, you know?
You're
How old are you, by the way, Pissottle? I would like to know that.
pretty reductive, my dude. Maybe gender critical theory isn't helping you understand the world as well as you would like to.
I think that it's much better to understand the experience of so-called trans women in terms of being continuous with the experience of gender.
Well, yeah, don't we have to consider that part of a trans woman's... Oh, I asked you what your age was. Hang on, let me get that again. You distracted me.
And the experience of so-called trans women in terms of being continuous.
Yikes, I'm actually terrified now.
It's much better to understand the experience of so-called trans women in terms of being continuous with the experience of gender non-conforming men.
This is so boring for me. Like, you have no argument.
If you're 37, why is it that you seem to treat me like I'm someone who was born about when I started my stream? Do you not think that maybe things have happened in my life and it might be worth having a bit of curiosity and understanding other people through their experiences instead of soying out at them on fucking chat? Because I post my Discord fucking link nowadays often enough. You're not in here talking to me.
That I have any less explanatory value than you, and you're...
Wait, hang on. Did you have no experiences? Or maybe you transitioned after 34. Maybe that's it.
Advocating for ignoring nuance, even though you came to me with the argument that I am the one bullying over nuance.
I don't think I've ever said anything.
Is the nuance he's talking about like gender identities and stuff? Because is that nuance? We don't even know what the fuck that shit is.
You came to me with the argument that I am the one bullying over nuance.
I don't think I've ever said anything.
Should we not respect trans people? Stop with this.
Why should we not respect trans people? What a stupid fucking question. No one's saying that. It's not about respecting trans people. You can respect trans people, but also not affirm any weird delusions about your body being your condition because you were born a woman and it's in your brain. And you've always been a woman, even though you were a cis guy until you were fucking a year younger than you are now, you know? It just doesn't make any sense on the face of it, you know?
We've gone over this a dozen times now, this facile of academic pretense.
Well, they haven't gone over anything. They've been spinning their wheels for ages, but I have a feeling that's mostly because of what vaush is doing.
So, I mean, the problem is you want me to say, what, like, oh, I hate trans people? Well,
no. I want you to explain to me why your bad arguments should allow millions to be oppressed.
That's so stupid. He won't even say, like, how they're oppressed. Like, come on.
I want you to tell me why that's worth it.
Well, the simple reason is I don't think that the social utility of a theory is something that should be considered when talking about, like, analysis. When you're analyzing patriarchy,
when we're talking about changing that social construct, that's what we do.
Yeah, shouldn't, like, the social application of stuff kind of come after? I don't know if there's it's kind of hard to say. Maybe there's a middle ground of accepting sex and gender. I don't know. This is breaking my brain now. I actually can't listen to vaush.
Yeah, but the difference is, and this is what
I will anyway.
What you seem to not be getting, that gender is a social construct. Gender says nothing in itself as a social construct
You're
of identity
doing it again.
about what a woman should be.
You're doing it again.
What a marital
Yeah, you are. You're making the
do.
argument that it should not be a matter of identity. You're making a prescriptive judgment, as am I. I'm just not the one. I'm just not afraid.
Well, why should it be a matter of identity? What use is there in being able to decide for yourself that actually you're a woman or a Neutroy's two-spirit penguin or whatever the fucking Piers Morgan meme was?
You're saying that I am.
The difference is we're talking about a prescriptive judgment in terms of how to communicate and how to talk. Like, for example, saying that
this is so fucking boring to me. I don't. Wait. Why should millions of people be oppressed? What this sounds to me right now, I imagine from your perspective, is
Oh, this is sea lining. He's doing a bad now. If this was like nowadays, he'd be actually no. They wouldn't accuse him of sea lining because it's fine when people you agree with do it.
that I'm like triggered and I'm trying to get you to own up.
No,
you really,
no.
He's very triggered.
You really
I
are
don't
like
think that.
disgusting to me. Like it's pretty like plain and obvious, I think, at least to the people in my
Oh,
audience.
I'm seeing it so clearly now. I'm seeing Pissatle, I'm seeing your shit, I'm seeing all of these fucking Twitter assholes shit. I'm seeing all of these fucking assholes on the fucking line and all that other shit. The way that they argue, the way that they get so personal needlessly because they're offended. It's becoming so clear to me now. Jesus Christ. Like, vaush has a lot to answer for. Like, this person should never have been allowed any of the fucking clout he got in trans circles. And still does. Because trans people still support him. To plenty of trans people, the fucking lolly shit is fucking mild, probably. So, I don't know. Oh, Jesus Christ. I hate this person. This person has a lot to answer for.
Audience, that you are unwilling to actually own up to the bigotry that you're advocating for.
The person he debated attended my secondary school, as in like King Critical or someone else. Oh, the Benjamin Butterworth was it? I watched that. I have no idea if he needed. No, what it was, Benjamin Butterworth was offended by that joke and then came back to argue that Piers Morgan should lose his job over it. Like, oh my god, that guy is such a fool. Yeah, I remember that. I watched loads of like TV debates and stuff when I first started this, like just trans people appearing on them, just to see what the kind of thing they did, because I really wasn't very I hadn't watched much of this kind of stuff, probably because if I had watched it when I was younger, I would have been deeply embarrassed and probably just fucking detransitioned. But yeah, he was not doing a good job. He had a massive thing about J.K. Rowling's book that had the transvestite killer or whatever. There was a thing about that, and he hadn't even read the book, and it wasn't even about a trans person. It was the most pathetic thing. And like, this is how this guy acts as well. He doesn't watch things. He doesn't like, I don't know.
So you're continuing to repeat this pretense of
all these accusations and all this like personal shit. I don't think I've heard King Critical get personal with him, really. So why is it acceptable the other way round? Because he's sticking up for oppressed people? You haven't even described one way in which the sex binary, oppresses trans people. You haven't. I can accept the fucking sex binary and I don't feel oppressed personally. I'm a white person in the UK. It's not actually as difficult as people think.
An argument. This, well, it doesn't aid to understanding. First of all, social constructs get changed all the time. Feminists have been advocating for it for centuries.
Yes, but why should we change this one to what you're saying? Because people just decide in their head there's something. Why should we do that?
Now, when Wollstonecraft was arguing what womanhood was and what the relationship between man and woman was 200 years ago, she was arguing for a prescriptive change in the understanding.
Apparently his viewers were calling King Critical a she and a her, but that wasn't a problem. That's fine. Listen, if anyone ever gives me shit for misgendering someone on here, then I straight up don't care. And people like this are like fucking hypocrites anyway. I couldn't watch this guy, yeah.
Understanding of the social relations between men and women, as is what
This is like the woke scold bully shit on fucking steroids. Like, I don't know. The more of these fucking debates I'm watching and the more I'm actually understanding what's going on, it's just, ugh. And like, I let this kind of stuff, I didn't say anything about this kind of stuff for like years. And like, I don't know. I feel a lot of regret watching older stuff like this, if that makes sense.
Arguing for right now. I
should have been doing this kind of stuff a lot sooner.
On the backs of every feminist TERFs lay claim to the accomplishments of. The difference is I understand what they were trying to do. So please, for the love of God.
Do you? How? How do you understand what it was they were trying to do? What's my Discord? Okay, one sec.
No more of this. It's inherently bad to try to change social constructs. No more of this. It hurts our understanding because it clearly doesn't. No more of this idea that queer theory doesn't explain gender non-conforming people. Somehow. Explain to me why, in my scale, where I measure your heart against that of a feather, why your concerns about the academic and explanatory viability of queer theory outweigh real material harm to millions. Please, that's what I'm asking you. Why?
I don't see any.
He's just harping on about oppression again. Like, I don't know. No one seems to be able to answer why, like, in what way trans people are oppressed by a sex binary, but sure.
Right now, I stand on the backs of every feminist TERFs lay claim to the accomplishments of. This hard against that of a feather. Why the idea that queer theory doesn't explain gender non-conforming people somehow?
Well, it doesn't, because what queer theory seems to do with gender non-conforming people is just create more and more and more and more categories, when the simple answer is that's a male who just doesn't conform to stereotypical male appearance or behavior or something. So actually his explanation is actually a lot simpler. It's just that some people don't like that explanation because they think differently, because they identify as something, but we don't have a good answer for why identifying as things is right and why it should trump everything else.
Explain to me why, in my scale, where I measure your heart against that of a feather, why your concerns about the academic and explanatory viability of queer theory outweigh real material harm to millions. Please, that's why I'm
We should have left the Game of Thrones area just the way it was and never changed a thing.
asking you. Why?
I don't see any reason why we need to change the definition of gender in order to make people happy. I mean, first of all, there are
We've already been doing that. Feminists have been doing that for centuries.
No, what you're see, here's the thing. Okay, when you're talking about these feminists doing this thing, you're talking about feminists saying, okay, people believe.
Yeah, they've been doing that for women. Trans women is very different to women.
That gender should prescribe what people do.
Hi, Serena. I hope you're doing well. This video is annoying me immensely, so I'm sorry if I seem grumpy.
How people act, how people behave, and that's wrong. But I don't think you can lay any claim to the idea that
and also what gender is. Also, people used to believe the role of women was just to be barefoot and pregnant. You would pump 12 kids out of them by the time they were 30, and they thought it was a God-given necessity for them to do so, to propagate the
Yes, things change, but why should we do this particular change that you want to do? Because it oppresses trans people? How does it oppress trans people? What's some examples?
propagate the kingdom. Our understanding of gender has changed. Not just what should women do, but also what...
Our understanding of gender has changed. Well, I guess that's technically true, yeah.
Gender is.
I think my understanding of gender has gotten less because it's just... There's so much extra shit being thrown in there. It's just... I don't know, it does muddy the waters a huge amount.
The issue is, I mean, you keep expressing what gender is in terms of what women were expected to do. I'm saying, like, if you're a man, you can do anything. If you're a woman, you can do anything. I'm not saying that we should focus on how
including identifies what
should behave. But I don't see, the problem is you're acting as if in order for us to be progressive, we need to redefine social constructs in such a way that they no longer have any...
In the formation of this country, the United States of America...
The problem is he cut him off when he was making a point. Like, he wants to change something so that something has less meaning so that it supposedly helps more people, despite that he hasn't demonstrated how what he's talking about actually helps people.
America, the only people who were considered full citizens were land-owning white men.
Who cares? Jesus Christ, why does he keep changing the subject? Is it because he's actually not as strong on this as he thinks he is?
The definition of a citizen had race baked into it. And we changed that definition. We didn't just say what a citizen and
This white man is extremely angry over racism.
a non-citizen could do changed. We didn't just say, oh, black people aren't citizens, but you can do this and that. We fundamentally changed our understanding of a social construct because it made the world a better place, because it better appealed to our values of liberty, egalitarianism, and fraternity.
All right, so here's your issue. You're describing something where, you know, being a citizen, that matters. Because being a citizen means you are equal, it means you are respected.
You're moving the goalpost again. No, you can still have a non-citizen be equal. You're moving the goalpost again.
And the point is, you're...
Wait, how? Wouldn't a citizenship be better than a non-citizenship if your aim is that you want to live there for a long time? I don't know.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you are talking about something where our understanding of what it means to be a citizen has a very pronounced value attached to it.
And so does gender identity to trans people.
But no,
and so does gender identity to trans people.
Hold up. God, trans people can't even agree whether it's more identifying as something or just being dysphoric. I mean, I'm glad he can speak for all trans people as a non-trans person. How nice. But then this is partly on trans people because we let people like him speak for us when he fucking sucks. Our Vaush's chat is full of freaks. Like, he's just rinsing them of their money by saying the shit they want him to say. Like, the grift is pretty obvious if you think about it, but, you know, none of these people would ever admit to anything like that, so.
That matters, because being a citizen means you are equal. It means you're saying a citizen has a...
Who does gender identity to trans people?
You're attached to it. Talking about something...
Equal, you're moving...
Our understanding of what it means to be a citizen has a very pronounced value attached to it.
Yeah.
And so does gender identity to trans people.
Not necessarily. To some, maybe. Yeah, Vaush is fucking boring as fuck. Yeah, like, your gender identity? I don't know. I don't even know what my gender identity is. I feel like people more just have their own self-identity, and what you think of your gender and shit is part of that, but I don't know.
No,
and so does gender identity to trans people.
Like, he's not even... He's just saying the popular thing. That isn't even really true, but sure. I'm glad to be, like, generalized so constantly into groups that I don't even feel I'm a part of, because I don't care about my gender identity. I don't even know what my gender identity is. I just exist. I had dysphoria. I was born a boy and I wished I was a girl. It's not actually that deep. But no, I have a gender identity. I was always born female, and I always knew in my head that I was a girl, even though I was a boy. I always knew, and this body, this was my condition, and that's why I got surgery and I did hormones to get tits and that, because my body, my male body, is my condition. It's retarded.
What you're implying is that in some
how
way
many
being a man or
non-citizens
woman
killed
is
themselves
inferior
because they
or
weren't
superior.
citizens? How many
What the fuck? I don't think I should watch any more from here. What the fuck is his deal? This is like guilt tripping on fucking steroids.
Value attached to it.
And this is manipulation. You're just trying to make him feel bad into changing his stance. Like, Jesus Christ, I guess your arguments weren't very good because none of them worked. I know, I'll try and make him feel bad. That'll do it. Fuck off.
So does gender identity to trans people.
But no,
and so does gender identity to trans people.
Your implication...
Vaush is fucking terrible.
What you're implying...
And it annoys me that people like this can just spout all the shit off that the community wants to hear, and we'll get shit tons of clout for it. It sucks, and we shouldn't let people like this do this, but we do. Because we get taken in by grifters. We're too easily manipulated by people like this. I feel like the born in the wrong body thing kind of invalidates the entire concept of ROGD, which I experienced as a kid. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because I don't think I had rapid onset gender dysphoria. But I mean, the whole born in the wrong body thing, I always understood to be a metaphor. Maybe it's where I'm a bit of an older trans or whatever. I always thought that kind of stuff, and like identifying as a woman even as well. It was more metaphoric to me. I didn't believe these things literally, but now people do. So I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
How many non-citizens killed themselves because they weren't citizens? How many non-citizens in American history killed themselves because they weren't considered citizens?
I don't know.
Well, do you know how many trans people kill themselves because they feel society doesn't validate their gender identity?
You don't know why they killed themselves. Jesus Christ. I don't even want to... Listen, I need to at least hear the end of this, but Jesus fucking Christ. You don't know why any of them killed themselves. You don't know that any of them were to do with their gender not being recognized. It probably was for some of them. There's always a whole lot of different causes when it comes to... But he's like doing the fucking single cause fallacy thing, like... But then he's just bringing this up to try and make this guy feel bad, so I don't know. It's pathetic.
Identity? Clearly it matters. You can't make the argument it doesn't matter because the data...
Jay Sanders, this channel freaky, very freaky. I've got fancy lights, makes noises when people subscribe, which you should do, by the way. Everyone subscribe and like my stream immediately.
Data backs me up on that one.
I am not asking, hang on, regarding subscribing to my channel, etc. Just very, very quickly before we continue this lovely, delightful conversation.
I am no longer asking, sign the f*** up!
Thank you, Abigail.
It does matter. We changed the definition of a social construct because it mattered to people.
Right. Basically, your whole thing is that you are...
Oh my god. I don't know which one it does. I think it's your anti-trans. Because I felt like it would be funny, people subscribing and then being called anti-trans for it.
It's crazy that I would want to define something in a way that helps to progress discourse and helps to...
No, we did this. You're not progressing discourse.
Sean G, how are you doing? I'm having lots of fun listening to vaush right now.
TERFs don't progress discourse. They go online and they complain about trans women. We changed the definition of a social construct because it mattered to people.
Well, yeah, but like, did you... Where did that all really come from? Where was like the pressure to change these really coming from? And funnily enough, it seems like we tried to mess too much with these movements. Nice, yes.
You're anti-trans.
Oh, thank you. There we go. You're anti-trans. Thank you for subscribing. You get to see a deer humping another deer.
Right. I don't know.
Well, do you know how many trans people kill themselves because they feel society doesn't validate their gender identity? Clearly, it matters. You can't make the argument it doesn't matter because the data backs me.
Yeah, we tried to fuck with these social constructs way too much, it feels, and now stuff's swinging back in the other direction, and now there's a lot of trans hate again. But is that not partly on us for getting greedy or for trying to push shit that we didn't even bother defining first, you know?
Me up on that one. It does matter. We changed the definition of a social construct because it mattered to people.
Right. Basically, your whole thing is that you...
But that's not changing the definition of a social construct. Like, what they're pretty much doing is, like, denying that things exist to make people feel better, which is insane.
Are acting as if it's crazy that I would want to define something in a way that helps to progress discourse and helps to...
No, we did this. You're not progressing discourse. TERFs don't progress discourse.
TERFs don't progress discourse. This is an interesting one, because this was 2020. Doesn't it feel like gender critical, especially in the UK, is actually quite relevant to discourse these days, is actually quite relevant to certain policy these days? He's just fucking wrong. And maybe in 2020, the TERFs didn't have a great reputation, but this shit's about to change.
They go online and they complain about trans women going into bathrooms. You're not progressing discourse.
I mean, the moral panic, arguable, we're living through was started years ago by right-wing think tanks who selected trans rights as a wedge issue. Not like anyone is listening to trans folk. I don't know if I agree with that even. I mean, people do listen to trans folk. It's just that the ones that are speaking are often insane and saying complete arse, such as Philosophy Tube. Even someone like ContraPoints, like, she did some good videos, but I don't know how much I even agree with her anymore. There's a lot of, like, pretty shallow arguments in there. I don't know. I don't think this moral, like, right-wing think tanks, like, people have issues with trans people for different reasons. I mean, you've got religious people, you've got, some people who just want to scream at people that they think look funny. You've got gender criticals who are concerned about things like women's spaces and women's sports. Like, I think boiling it down to, it was started by this, and then just lumping everyone in together, I think that's a really silly way of looking at it.
That's why you aren't in academia. That's why academic discourse of queer theory...
That's why you aren't in academia. What a sick burn.
...has completely precluded all of your bullshit ideas. You aren't advancing anything. You're concerned...
Well, queer theory is on its way out now, so...
...about trans women, okay? So quit backing up to that. We've already gone over that point, and now we address the fundamental...
Which you were wrong about.
...argument that you have made. We have never before changed the definition of a social construct. Well, we have.
I didn't say that.
Yeah. Way to show that you were arguing with a straw man once again, vaush. Good job.
I didn't say we've never changed the definition of social construct. What I'm talking about is your...
I'm just still wondering why... Okay, so he said why he wants to change this one. It's to lower oppression, but he still won't even say what oppression comes from not changing this particular social construct. I don't know. This has gotten such a weird argument. I don't know how much I said this fucking earlier. I'll watch the whole thing maybe. I don't know.
Deciding times when society, being bigoted, attached certain things you could do to a social construct, and your only response to this was to say, well, citizen, but the citizen, that has a very specific value attached to it. And
as does the gender identity of the people who identify
men and women are the same. I don't think that,
Not to people who are men or women. You know, a lot of the people in my chat have been calling you she, her because of your...
Went from anti-trans, first off, anti-trans is meaningless to me. Being a fringe belief in the UK, I guess, to papers writing anti-trans screeds every day for years here in the UK. You know I live in the UK, right? You know I'm from here. None of it has been organic. I'm not necessarily saying it is organic. I'm just saying there's different people that have different issues, and it doesn't make sense to lump them all in together. This anti-trans label is stupid, and we need to get rid of it.
androgynous presentation.
I'll tell you something. Apparently I'm anti-trans because I'm against trans women in sports. That's fucking retarded. Like, there's very clear reasons as to why specifically people have that issue with trans people.
In hair. I don't know if that,
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that particularly bothers you, but I know there are a lot of cisgender people who wouldn't particularly appreciate being misgendered either. It does matter to people. In fact, I would say
I'm such a soy fuck.
most people care more about their gender identity being validated than they care about the right to vote. Whether or not you think that.
What? I think anti-trans has utility. It has utility in lumping people in together that probably shouldn't go together. So if you're dishonest, then yeah, I agree. Otherwise, it's useless. It means nothing. People throw it at literally everything. You've got videos on how to tell if someone's anti-trans, even if they say they're not anti-trans. And it's the most retarded shit ever. It's just, here's the long list of things that we don't like about TERFs, rightoids, religious people, even when their arguments in some cases are honest and worth exploring. Like, yeah, I don't see the point. I think it's a stupid thing and it means nothing to me. So you can use it around me, but it means nothing to me. So just use another word.
That's or a good or a bad thing is largely immaterial. Your denunciation of the importance of changing what it means to be a citizen is irrelevant because it hinges on the idea that people care more about the bounds of citizenry than they do about their identity. It's not true. So again, why should millions of people be oppressed? Please.
Why should he answer this question when you haven't defined what oppression you're talking about? How about that?
Come on, help me out here. We're talking about people dying.
Oh, help me out here. Please say the thing that I agree with. Please satiate my ridiculous, insane fucking chat full of fucking morons.
This is a large class of people whose
TERF idiot pronouns. Can we guillotine this TERF? That's a fucking death threat. Okay, I thought death threats only went one way, but I guess not. Seriously, no misgender. This fucking femoid, he's a man. What?
Needs are material and real, and all you have to define.
She is dysphoric, femboy TERF. Rude to misgender even TERFs. This guy gets the gulag when I'm in charge. Fuck me. How many of these people are trans? Probably at least some of them. Listen, the kind of shit that I'm advocating for necessarily cuts these kind of idiots out because we don't just believe anyone that says fucking pro-trans shit, you know? Fuck this guy.
Refer to is some, well, it doesn't, the discourse, well, we don't like changing the definition of constructs. We're the radical ones. We just want gender to stay the same as it is. Like, come on.
The funny thing about like people saying that I'm a woman or whatever else is the issue there. It's precisely that. It doesn't help to understand the
It's also very hypocritical.
relationship between genders. So in other words, the fact that I have long hair has nothing to... Well, I think queer theory has plenty to say about gender and relationship between different genders.
Yeah, it does. But what does that have to do with queer theory? That was a complete pivot, by the way. So why?
Sorry,
Millions of people. Why? Material harm.
God, he's so rude.
This is, you know, I argue with Nazis a lot, and at least they have the
No, you don't. Actually, maybe he has not argued with a few, but plenty of the people he calls Nazis are not fucking Nazis. There aren't actually that many fucking Nazis. The amount of people that fucking go off on me about the slippery slope to fascism, it's like, fuck off. How many fascists do you think they even are out here? Off topic, but earlier I got that Alec Gunter vile transphobe video recommended me, lol. Oh my god. Yeah, I watched that. And in the thumbnail, it makes out that the guy's going to be really bad. But what happens is, because the other guy's not very intelligent either, he makes some stupid comparison between trans people and rape. And then Alec Gunter spends like ages just making rape comments at everything he says. Like, aren't you kind of the worst one in a way? Like, sure, if I had an argument with someone and they made some terrible like comparison between trans people and rape, I don't know that I'd spend the whole time just making fun of them for it. I'd probably be like, you need to understand how that's fucking weird, you know?
All to explain to me why oppression is just. I've never argued with a Nazi and they just sat there and gone like, well, by preserving the older definitions of race relations, we have a better understanding of...
Yeah, Alec Gunter is a fucking terrible... He's just terrible at what he does. He's fucking terrible. And the fact that vaush is now having to associate with people like that is hilarious to me. Quite honestly, I hate everyone that used to follow vaush, like Xanderhal and Keffels and all those people. But they're like, what he's got now is a downgrade. It's like, instead of Keffels being the pet trans, you know, he's got nominal Naomi and someone else who sucks even worse than nominal Naomi. You know what I mean? It's hilarious. Instead of Xanderhal, you get Alec Gunter, who's like even worse than Xanderhal somehow. Oh, it tickles me.
The relationship between different groups that have contributed, it's so fucking boring. Like, why can't you just stand by your bigotry? Are you proud of the things that you believe and the things that you do? Are you proud of the...
Why not just admit to being a bigot? What a soy fucking loser. And the fact that this is what, like, I don't know, the fucking... I think what really bothers me is like the audience capture shit more than anything, because this isn't difficult to do. All you have to do is learn the arguments that the people you want to appeal to make, and then just make those arguments over and over. And people probably, well, people do accuse me of that shit, because they accuse me of being like a pick-me and shit. And it's like, I don't know what fucking people I'm supposedly appealing to. I'm just saying what I think. And people are choosing to not believe me that that's what I think, which I don't know why I'd say things I don't think, but sure. Unless I'm being vaush, but hey. I don't know, I feel like transcentrism isn't a very good place to do a fucking audience capture grift, because there's not actually that many of them out there, believe it or not. Fuck.
I am, yeah.
Of your beliefs? Okay, so
no,
you're okay with hurting
I'm not
people.
proud of the consequences.
What is there but the consequences?
There's the fact that
Well, what are the consequences apart from oppression? You haven't explained them.
I feel like I can...
Because it invalidates someone's identity. Like, really? Oh, yeah. Alec Gunter did a video about offensive tranny, who I actually like quite a lot, I'm going to be honest. He did a video about Jeffrey Marsh, like actually kind of defending him from like pedophile allegations, which I thought was based because he's a creepy fuck, but there's not actually evidence that he's a pedophile, you know? I don't know. Like I said, the way people talk about people they disagree with is important to me. If you'll defend someone you disagree with, then I think that says something about your character, personally. But yeah, Marcus Dibb is cool. I like him. I don't agree with everything he says, but I like him. Yeah, he called him a cock over and over. Like, I'm more of a man than you, and like, Marcus doesn't even call himself a man. That was funny.
Explain things better than you can.
You can't! What can you explain better than me?
I can explain the oppression of people.
How? In what way?
Gender non-conforming, because it's very obvious that the experience of me as a man being, misgendered on your chat, being attacked because I am in some way going outside of,
Whoa. They're not.
Yeah, but these people think that your beliefs are like enough to attack you over and completely disregard their own principles to attack you over by misgendering you, you know?
Misgendered on your chat, being attacked because I am in some way going outside of,
Whoa.
my
They're not attacking. Whoa, they're
not attacking you. By fucking trans idiot logic, you are in fact being attacked right now. Suck my ass, cunt. Okay, they are a dude. I guess we were transvestigating him. Is that cool? She isn't explaining shit. Like, really? Fuck off, Brit Bonger. Come on.
not attacking.
Well, okay, fine. I don't know. I'm not looking, so I don't know. But there's a continuous relationship between that, me as a man, in some way presenting more feminine, and
yeah, if he was like a really buff, short-haired dude, would they be doing that? Who knows?
Somebody who is so sure that they want to kind of be gender non-conforming,
do you appreciate the supreme...
You don't care what he has to say about anything. Fuck.
Gender.
Do you appreciate the supreme irony of you, a TERF, saying that your theory has more explanatory power than mine because my chat misgendered you? Can we just, if we can take a moment of silence to appreciate the sublime irony of that particular criticism on your end, I would really appreciate it.
Perfectly fine, because I think the relationship between me being misgendered as a man is continuous.
Isn't it misogynist that they're calling him a her, by the way, because they don't like her? Him. Fuck me. I'm bad at pronouns as it is. Isn't it like a bit misogynist? Like, what's wrong with being a girl? What's wrong with being a she? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. People always go on about how they should consider the implications of the words they use, in the sense that, say, you go out and start screaming the N-word, people are going to think you're racist. But why is it that, like, when you contravene your own principles and misgender someone, why are we not allowed to point out that, like, hypocrisy? Why is it that if it kind of comes across like you sound a bit misogynist because you're suggesting that this male is in fact a female, which he clearly isn't, like, why do these people get like a free pass for this kind of shit? It blows my mind. I guess they don't really, especially not anymore, but I don't know. 2020 was like the nadir of like the fucking cult shit, I guess.
If I were to, begin to...
There are women who look like you.
More for, Yeah, there are. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. So what's the issue?
Well, the issue is that it doesn't help to understand I as a man have male privilege.
What does that have to do with anything? Why do you keep falling back to this?
Saying, people calling me a she/her is insinuating I'm a woman. Obviously,
people calling you she/hers because they don't know what your gender is by looking at you. It has
Oh, fuck off. That is a man. You can see the slight stubble. You can hear the voice. The only reason you wouldn't gender him correctly is because you're that soy as fuck that you see someone like this and you're not sure if they're trans or not. Oh, Alec Gunter. Yeah. Alec Gunter's a freak. But yeah, he did a video about Marcus Dibb who responded. Ada, hello. Hi to you. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you.
Nothing to do with the prescriptive understanding that queer theory would assign to your oppressive experiences. What experience of yours can I not explain?
People calling me she/her right now.
What
experience of yours can I not explain? I can explain anything using queer theory. Well, maybe you could, because you're a fucking wordsmith.
Experiences of yours can I not explain?
It's not so much. The thing is, you're individualizing. It's holistic. It's
what? So what? We keep doing this. What can I not explain?
You can't explain the obvious fact that the relationship between, there is a huge difference between somebody being misgendered because, so a trans woman, so-called trans woman, being called a man, and all that's a completely, but being made fun of for presenting as a woman, and a gender non-conforming man being made fun of for presenting as a woman.
So wait,
those two things are very similar. Whereas by contrast,
there are similarities and differences. You're the one bullying over nuance.
We've literally.
God, he's like halfway through the point and he just won't. I don't know if his tactic is just to talk over him every time he talks, or what.
We've been over this
on
point.
The complete opposite side of the spectrum, you have somebody who looks very authentically like a man.
We've been
who
over
identifies
this
as a
point.
woman, and according to you, the experience of a you are looking at two people. One is a man
over this.
who is gender non-conforming, who is made fun of being gender non-conforming. The other one is a so-called trans woman who is gender non-conforming.
We've been over
gender
this.
conforming, as you would find, who is made fun of being gender conforming. And then over here is somebody who looks exactly like a man in every single way, who also thinks that they're a woman, who says
We've done this exact
And according
point.
to you, these two things are the same, more so than these two things, which I just think is ridiculous.
We've done this exact point. I've addressed this exact argument. This isn't a good argument, and I know because we addressed it.
I mean,
that's it. So that's it. That's your argument for the suffering of millions of people and denying them the social legitimacy of their chosen identity.
I think this
is such a virtue signal.
Well, if you take a gender non-conforming person and
then he starts shouting, like, I don't want this kind of fucking advocacy. You know what I mean? It's the same with the other people I've been watching. I don't want that kind of advocacy in general. Like, why don't people think of that ever? I guess they're so selfish, they think they can just act however the fuck they want because they're right or something. But that, again, that's another thing that's like come back to bite us in the ass. Because now we have the worst reputation ever. And the stigma on trans people to people that are even slightly critical is that we can't take any criticism. We can't handle debates. And we don't talk to anyone. We just get more and more intrinsic and more, not intrinsic, whatever the word is, echo chambery, fucking culty, all that shit. And it just gets weirder and weirder because we start going further and further away from the normal people. Just like QAnon and all that other shit, because most of these cults are the fucking same.
A transgender, well, if you have these two...
So like they're all in little tiny echo chambers. They're not talking to people that disagree anymore. Their agreements just kind of snowball and their ideas snowball much faster than the rest of the world progresses, and they leave everyone behind. And people like him are like directly responsible for this. He's given these fucking idiots like a place to go and a place to be the fucking cult. And he'll get money for just reaffirming everything they say.
Two people, and they both look like men, but they're not really. Well, I think your theory explains this a little bit less. I can't explain how.
Strawman voice, yeah.
It explains it less, but like, come on.
At least he didn't do a racist as fuck British accent. Yeah, I'm pausing too much.
You're kind of a slimy little weasel. Do you you realize that this entire time I've been trying to talk about the actual material harm done, and you refuse to because you know it makes you.
What have you said about the material harm, except that there is some, supposedly, according to you?
Look bad.
It's not that. It's just that.
No,
it's
but I've
irrelevant.
asked you to
not ignoring. What's the word I'm looking for? Invalidating someone's identity. Yeah, but that's not like oppression. That's just feeling offended by something. I don't know. Fuck me. There's not a huge amount left to go. There's like 10 minutes. I'm dying. I need food soon.
It is the most relevant possible thing.
It's not. I don't think that how people feel about the way gender is defined is relevant to the definition of gender. When talking about people's emotional
social
reactions.
constructs are oriented around utility. That's what feminists have been doing for centuries.
That isn't true. A social constructs. Hang on, this is fucking my head up. Social constructs are built around utility. Aren't they just ways of explaining stuff, understanding stuff? I just don't know what the fuck.
Again, you keep talking about like social contract, not in terms of how things are defined, but in terms of like the things people are expected to do. Yes, feminism has changed.
Okay, let me go over the
the
strongest possible relationship, the best possible criticism. What is race?
What is race again? Like, what? I don't care about fucking race in this conversation.
Race.
Like, is there anything more cringe than two fucking white people sitting around mouthing about fucking racism? Like, just shut up. Aren't we supposed to be letting other people speak about this topic?
Well, it's some people's.
I can't believe you would just say that to me.
I don't think we should just throw it out.
I can't believe you would just say that to me. Do you have any idea how fluid gender has been historically?
Historically, when did gender fluid start being a thing that we understood? We can't. I have a real problem with people that like apply modern concepts to ancient times, or even just like 100 years ago, something like that. Not 10, I almost said 10. Even like 100 years ago. Like, I find it bizarre. We don't know what the world was like then. If like someone was born, what would their gender fluidity look like at a time when they don't know anything about this? No one's thought of it. We don't even have trans people really yet, at least not in the way that we understand them nowadays.
Well, I am aware that there are places in India where they have this idea as like
the whole world over, there have been radically different perceptions of what gender stems from, is, and means to different cultures and different points in time. But even with race, our current conception of race, social construct as it may be, is about 500 years old. It stemmed from the perception of scientific racism that dominated the academic space during the transatlantic slave trade, to give an empirical explanation for the apparent differences in different types of people. Now, as it turns out, that understanding of race is every bit as stupid and arbitrary as what Socrates thought when he argued that the hot, thin-blooded Middle Easterners contrasted with the thick-blooded Northerners, and that was what determined their predilections.
The fact that okay.
It's every bit as explanatory as that. So, most reasonable people agree that our medicalized scientific perception of racism is one which actually leads to less understanding, more harm, than one if we changed it. I am a racial abolitionist.
I'm glad you're a racial abolitionist, and we've learned this in this debate about trans people. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fine, but you're...
Racial abolition, like, I don't know. Like, especially the fact that he's white. Don't a lot of like people of color like take some kind of pride in like their status as a person of color, that in a similar way to how like gay people do and stuff. Like, do they want that? What about like gender abolition? Like, to me, I don't have a problem with gender existing. I think things being gendered kind of makes it a lot easier in a lot of ways. Like, I don't care. He's supposed to be advocating for my shit, but I don't even agree with him, so I don't know.
You're saying you're a racial abolitionist, but obviously we need to actually get to a point where the effects of race aren't felt. By just saying you're a racial abolitionist and expressing that as if it's something to do with definition.
Yeah, that sounds like colorblindness, if anything. Let's just get rid of race. No one... Oh, that person happens to have darker skin, but don't make any reference to it, I guess. I don't fucking know.
I think it should be to do with definitions too.
This boy is just a tiny shitlet. Oh my goodness, he made Vaush bleed. I hope he did. Oh, he actually like cut himself or something, and now everyone's talking about blood.
I think that abolishing race, abolishing gender, yes, we should do these things.
It does do them. Wait. What do you think abolishing gender would do for trans people?
Fuck all. Everyone would still exist. People would probably just go back to seeing people as males and females, because that seems way more likely than whatever the fuck utopian shit Vaush seems to think would happen. To me, it would kind of suck, because like I'm a binary trans person, so things being gendered, like I kind of rely on a bit, or I did earlier on. I guess I don't really care anymore, but like, I don't know. The whole point of like gender, if you're a trans person, is that you do things to signify your gender, So like if you're a trans woman, you'd wear like earrings and have like a bag and wear certain kinds of clothes. let's abolish gender, then like, I don't know. I don't really know what the fuck he's even implying, quite honestly.
I don't know. I mean, abolishing gender, I would say that some of them, I mean, the things, I don't think there's one kind of monolithic transgender view on it, but I would say in general it would mean that being transgender...
Just abolish queer instead. There we go. Problem solved. Easy. There we go. Queer abolitionist.
Wouldn't exist. It wouldn't really be a thing you could do if you abolished
So if
gender.
there was no gender, you realize that there would be people who look like me, who would talk and present in ways we typically consider feminine.
He hasn't thought about how gender abolition would affect trans people. Yeah, I wonder why he's never thought about whether abolishing gender altogether would help trans people. Jeez, I wonder, fucking random chatter. Darcy D, you're a fucking moron.
You realize that there would be people who look like me, who would talk and present in ways we typically consider feminine.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Like yeah.
Okay.
No
And
issue.
there would also be people with medical dysphoria who would go to doctors, and the doctors would do some whatsits with their body to make their body look more the way they're interested in looking.
I think if we reach
Let's just give everyone what they want all of the time.
a point where gender was genuinely abolished,
Listen, you can tell that his like viewer base and the audience capture that he's going for is all like, God, what's the word? I don't know how to say this in a non-offensive way. Extremely stunted people. I don't know. People that their brain age and their physical age are not quite on a tandem.
and I think we're only going to get there by having like a
By being
strong feminist
turfs.
discourse, by having a
Like
strong
being turfs. Jesus, what a soy fuck. I need to just finish this fucking video, man.
feminist discourse.
You realize you're a gender essentialist.
Actual oppression women have experienced.
How can you
I'm a gender
possibly
essentialist.
believe your beliefs give greater explanatory value when you're a gender essentialist? You believe that gender and sex are inextricably linked, that a gender identity is predicated on your sexual biology, and now you're arguing that you want
Oh, hi, P4GY. I'm torturing myself and everyone watching.
gender abolished? Do you have any idea how incongruent your political beliefs are?
Well, first of all, believing two things are incongruently linked. I can't remember what you said. I'm not very smart. Those two things are linked doesn't automatically make you an essentialist.
Here's a hint. Don't self-deprecate. It's just all it does. Like, you're not gonna get them to try and act more like a human being. They're just gonna pounce on that too. Like, there is no humanity here to try and reason with in any way, really.
Because if
You're an
for example,
essentialist. What makes a person a woman?
That gender is what makes somebody a woman is a combination of biology, culture, and self-identity.
Wait, so what combination of culture and self-identity could make a person not a woman if they were born with a pussy?
Okay, yeah,
You're a
okay.
Weasley little liar, buddy. You know you just think it's gender. Or you just think it's sex.
It's just sex, yeah. No. Okay, well, here's the thing, okay, because obviously the thing is, gender critical
So how
scientists
can a
say
person with a
it's
penis
all-
be a woman?
They can't.
It's all biology are wrong, because of course intersex people exist. Now the reality is that if you have, say for example, a hermaphrodite,
Hang on. I don't know if this is the kind of thing he's changed on since, but I'll hear what he's saying.
somebody who has both a penis and a vagina or whatever,
By the way, just so we know, just so we're all clear, true hermaphrodites in humanity doesn't happen. I've never found any like cases of it, as in like both sets of fully functioning genitalia to where they could potentially even impregnate themselves. That doesn't exist.
then some cultures might say that person should be considered a woman. Some cultures might say that person should be considered a man. Some cultures might say that person
What can
should
a
be
person
considered
with a penis
nothing.
do to be a woman?
There is nothing. I don't think there is
Die, get reincarnated as a girl, live to the age of 18.
a thing you can do to become a woman.
Then
If you have a penis.
biology
I
is
think-
then it's just biology. So I'll do
What's wrong with that?
wait, I'll do the corollary. So what can a person with a vagina do to be a man?
Again, I don't think
The same as what I said, but in reverse.
it's as simple as
So
there's
it's
something you can do.
biology. So you're a gender essentialist.
It's
What's wrong with that?
not no, because it's not. That's not just
This
saying,
is what they do. They just slap labels on people. It's like, I don't care about your shitty labels. Like, why not just tell me what the problem is that I've said? I hate this. Like, this has opened my eyes so much. I knew that when I watched vaush that I'd probably recognize a whole bunch of like shitty debate tactics that like trans rights advocates use and stuff like that. I didn't know it would be quite this bad because he's got a reputation. I mean, not a good one nowadays, but for a long time he did as like a good debater and stuff. But then I remember when everyone used to use the kid gloves for fucking Demon Mama, and she has always been awful, so I don't know.
Come
that
on.
having I mean, to be honest, I don't care. Like, if you could show that I was a biological essentialist, it wouldn't be like, and what I'm just saying as a point of fact, because I care about explaining things, and I know that if
You
I said
can't be a gender
is
essentialist and
100%
want the abolition of
defined
gender.
by biology, if I say that gender is 100% defined by biology, then that's going to inhibit my ability to explain things. It's going to inhibit.
Gender essentialist can't. I don't know. Gender essentialist. That sounds like a really weird term. Because, like, a sex essentialist could definitely want to abolish gender. Because they don't want gender, they want sex and nothing else. Like, males and females, there you go. I don't know.
My ability to explain
that has been your explanation this entire time. Gender is congruent or it's contingent on sex. That's been your argument this entire time.
There is a
contingent,
very strong link between gender and biology. I'm not an essentialist because I wouldn't say that biology is the only thing 100% of the time.
Then what else?
Gender.
What else?
Well, again, so in my case, there is no ambiguity to my biology. There's obviously some ambiguity to my presentation, but there's no ambiguity to my biology. So I would say culture and self-identity have nothing to do with it. But there are people who, and the thing is, you queer theorists do point this out, that there are people who have ambiguous biology. And I would say that in those cases,
have you taken hormone tests?
I'm guessing because, like, intersex conditions are understood to either apply to males or females. Maybe one or two apply to both. I'm guessing, like, his arguments were kind of workshop since then. I don't know.
No, I don't know. And maybe.
Do you know what your testosterone level?
Like, why does any of this matter? Like, first off, who cares about your testosterone level? I know you're gonna say it's massive because you like to say how big your dick is and all that weird shit.
Testosterone level is.
No,
do you know for sure? Are you positive?
But it's the same shit as when people are like, well, you don't know what my chromosomes are. It's like, I can probably intuit them. Because let's face it, first off, if a trans person has a DSD, they're going to be telling everyone they know about it, and it's going to be in their fucking bio and all that shit. So you probably don't have one of them. So you're probably either XY or XX, depending on which sex you were born as. Like, it's just because I can't technically see your chromosomes, that doesn't mean that you weren't born a male, you know?
I guarantee you that if you and I went through a level of test together, I guarantee you, hey, listen, maybe you're a man compared to some of the girls that you know. I guarantee you that if you were put up against me, that pattern would repeat itself. How do you determine where the line is?
Yeah, because more testosterone makes you... Oh my god. That's the most insecure shit.
Exactly is the line on intersex people? What level of testosterone or estrogen? How much?
There isn't a line because testosterone... Not what am I saying? DSDs affect males or females differently, but not differently. Different ones affect males and different ones affect females.
How congruent should their genitalia be? That's why I'm
not a biological essentialist.
You are!
Because biological essentialism means you have this line, and that's
if you believe a person with a penis can't be a woman, and you believe a person with a vagina can't be a man, then biology is essentially and essential to what you...
There we go, I'm a biological essentialist, I guess. Listen, I use trans man and trans woman, and then man and woman. That's how I do it, because to call myself a woman would be suggest that I'm the same as women, and I don't think I am, so... And there's a very clear reason as to why that is as well.
You believe a person's gender is. How can you possibly...
And you know what? The weirdest thing is, I feel like I seem to be a lot happier than most of these like crazy people who are so enlightened apparently and understand how, yes, in fact, they are real women. Because these people seem fucking miserable. I don't feel oppressed. I feel okay. Like, life isn't perfect. There's plenty of good things in my life, and I feel okay. I can hold that belief and cop to the fact that I'm a male without, without falling to pieces. So I don't know.
Make the argument that I lack explanatory utility with regards to my understanding of gender when you come here and how do I attack this? You're a gender...
That sounds pretty British. Well, most British trans people are fucking fannies. Not all of them. I have one friend around here who's trans and is like really cool. And most of the rest of them are not my friends anymore because I said things they didn't like on social media or something. I don't fucking know. I don't care really.
Or you're a sexual gender essentialist, but you want gender abolitionism. You think it's okay to oppress millions of people and defy the prescriptions of the medical community.
You think it's okay... Oh, the medical community. Disgusting. Fuck that shit. American medical communities are extremely captured. So fuck that straight away. Like, you want to oppress millions. You're making the argument that necessarily they care about this because they want to oppress people. They're doing it because they hate people. That's not necessarily his motivation, and you shouldn't assume someone's motivation. I have to tell people this fucking a million times a day, that you shouldn't just go in with an accusation, oh, well, that means you must be anti-trans or whatever. That's fucking retarded. You're assuming this person's thought process without even asking half the time.
community because you believe that it gives better explanatory value to experiences. But then I ask you to explain how it does, and you can't. The one example you've given, the incongruity between a man who just presents as a woman and a man who identifies a woman, so a woman properly, you gave that, and
That's not a woman.
I answered it.
So a man who identifies as a woman is a woman. That's preposterous. If that's the only yardstick for what a woman is, I don't even know. That's so stupid. I can't even think of, like, do you know what I mean? You identify as a woman, you identify as a woman, thus you are one. So, like, if Vaush called himself a woman now and said he identifies as a woman, that means he's a woman now? Like, really? Like, that's just patently stupid. I don't even know how I'm supposed to fucking start with that, because that's just ridiculous.
You don't have a difference in explanation possible.
Like, I'm sorry, what else out there can we just call ourselves? And we are. If I call myself a baker, am I a baker? Not really. I've never baked anything. I don't know. There's probably some things that all you have to do to be something is call yourself it, you know, like non-binary or whatever. That's a joke. I actually don't completely disagree that non-binary exists. Well, but like, that's meaningless. Like, anything that you just have to call yourself to be is pretty meaningless, right?
But you, with your gender-critical theory, actually bowled over and sanded down an existing facet of nuance, which is that a man presenting as a woman and a man who identifies as a woman or a trans woman experience their oppression in different ways internally, which is
They experience it in different ways internally, but how much are they experiencing it through, like, this weird ideological framework that they've been taught by someone? Because let's face it, that seems to be what's happening. Is that experiencing it differently, or is that one of you's fucked in the head so that it affects you worse? I don't know. I feel like any oppression I do experience, I deal with fairly well, despite not believing in queer theory. So I don't really know.
Is essential to understanding the multiplicity of the patriarchy. When women are affected by the patriarchy, it's not just how they're treated. A man and a woman both being slut-shamed is not the same, not just because of their biology, but because of how they perceive it. I can understand that because my theory has a greater explanatory value than yours.
I never ever said that somebody who has gender dysphoria is not going to experience, being attacked for being gender non-conforming differently to somebody who does not have gender.
Oh, he's actually angry. This whole video is worth it because he looks actually angry now, and I'm happy. I'm glad you are angry, Vaush, you lolicon fuck, who is grifting to this bunch of fucking retards who don't understand fucking shit, calling him brainwormed when they're the brainwormed ones. And the sad part is of it, some of these people, they're probably way better than this. If they got this shit out of their head, they'd probably be much better and much happier people. And, you know, I can only speak about my own experience there, but it's definitely helped me a fucking ton. And I feel like I actually see fucking reality now, so I don't know. Fuck Vaush, I think that's the point. Anyway, let's see him get really angry again. I wonder if he kicks him. That would be funny. Oh. I don't know. Let's see.
Their biology, but
listen, I got through this whole fucking video. I didn't think I would. This almost broke me.
Because of how they perceive it. I can understand that because my theory has a greater explanatory value than yours.
My theory's better than yours. No, my theory's better than yours. This is fucking playground is what this is. He might as well have just said, oh, my dad's a fireman. He could beat up your dad.
I never ever said that somebody who has gender dysphoria is not going to experience, being attacked for being gender non-conforming differently to somebody who does not.
Wow, Vaush, yeah, it is annoying when people keep saying that they didn't say things that they didn't say. Interesting.
Gender dysphoria. I think there's no reason why gender critical feminism can't explain.
Oh, smooth the ponytail. Yeah, okay, it's okay, Vaush. It's okay, Vaush. Your little audience capture bunch of freaks are going to send you money in a minute, and then you'll be all good again, because that's what this is about.
I think, and I would say again, the gender critical feminism explains better the fact that somebody having gender dysphoria.
I'm not super good at doing a Vaush impression, but he's just dumb and obsessed with me, so I think that I've outpaced him intellectually. There you go.
Who is attacked for presenting as a woman, assuming they're a man, obviously. Assuming assuming that they are male assigned at birth. Somebody with gender dysphoria presenting as a woman is going to experience something much more similar to a man, a genuine man who also presents as a woman, than they are to somebody who is male assigned at birth.
God, get a lint roller, vaush. Jesus Christ.
considers themselves a woman, but does nothing in any way to express as a woman. That person's the oppression that person.
There was nothing I didn't understand.
Yeah, I'm not saying, the thing is, you seem to think it's all about, can you understand something?
No, you think that. I think social constructs are about utility, and so does everybody else. I've never even argued with a...
Do they? That's a fucking take. Everybody else believes that... What was it again? I don't even know. This weird argument. I've never heard... This is like, for the most part, it's shit that I've heard a million times before, because half the fucking idiots I come across literally stole his shtick, which he stole from Destiny and made worse. Like, imagine taking the bad bits of Destiny and being like, that's the parts I need, and now I'm gonna add my own bad bits to it. That's vaush.
That. I think social constructs are about utility.
They're about utility. Like, that's such a vague thing to say. They're about, I don't know. I don't even know. I need to think about that one, I guess. But, you know, defining something in the way that coddles the most people's feelings is not a good way to define something. Defining something as what something is a good way to define something.
And so does everybody.
And, like, definitions are socially constructed. So does everybody else. They like these, like, appeals to majority, which is bizarre because trans people are supposed to be a minority, but sure.
Else. I've never even argued with a TERF who made the arguments that you've made before. They make the arguments that the world is a better place if you don't treat trans women as women. You backed off that.
That's a bizarre argument itself. The world is a better place if we get rid of trans... Like, what? I fail to believe that people have actually said that, but then people don't, like... When they sum up other people's arguments, when they disagree with them, they have to make them as bad faith as possible. So I'm sure someone said something super nuanced to him that he bastardized. I don't know.
You wouldn't even defend that argument. You're just defending this esoteric concept that there's an explanatory difference, which is, in addition to being wrong, deeply dishonest, because we both know you don't care about explanatory value.
Oh, we know what he cares about now, do we?
You care about your intuitive belief that trans women...
Like... How easy, just make a bunch of shit arguments that your shit audience will like, and then just ad hominem a bunch.
Women aren't women, and you, well, I can't extrapolate your views any point.
This is going to be the worst fucking video ever, because I'm going to have to, first off, get through this whole fucking thing to edit it. And second off, I've probably repeated myself a million times, because he just drives me insane.
Beyond that.
Well, intuition is, I think, a fantastic benefit that gender critical theory does have. I think
that is, hey, wait. That is the perfect way to end this conversation. Okay, I agree. Cool. Intuition is on your side.
Thank you.
All right. Do you want to shout out your channel?
Yeah, sure. It's
Okay, listen, like, he could be having to eat crow over this if that Iman Khalif turns out actually to be a biological female, but... See, and he gets off on it, and he made loads of money off of it, off of people probably with much less money than him. But he's a leftist, and he has our... best interests at heart or whatever, because he says the right things, because trans people are super easily manipulated by people who just say the right things and put the shitty fucking pride flag up. Oh, look, hey little tran, hey, here's a distraction for you. You like the flag, don't? Yeah, it's the flag, yeah. I'm gonna teach you the dumbest arguments in the world now. I don't know, I have lost my mind. I've actually lost my mind watching that. Anyway. If you haven't liked the stream, you should like the stream. You should also subscribe to me on YouTube.